Simone stood in the marble foyer of their penthouse, her phone clutched in her trembling hand, trying to form the words one more time. Her mother was in the hospital. Her mother, who had raised her alone after her father died, who had worked 3 jobs to put her through college, who had believed in every dream Simone ever had. Her mother was in the ICU with a heart attack, and Simone needed her husband. Nathan Pierce sat on their white leather sofa, his fingers moving rapidly across his phone screen. His jaw was set in that familiar expression of concentration, the one that meant he was working even though it was 8 o'clock on a Friday night. The one that meant everything else could wait. "Nathan," Simone said, her voice cracking slightly. "I need to tell you something important." His eyes never left the screen. Just give me 1 second, babe." She waited. 30 seconds passed. Then a minute. The text from her aunt sat on her phone screen, blurring through her tears. "Your mama collapsed at work. They took her to St. Vincent's. Come quick. Nathan, please. It's about my mother." He chuckled at something on his phone, then typed a response. "That's great, honey. Tell her I said hi." Simone's breath caught in her throat. He hadn't heard a single word. He hadn't looked at her face to see the tears streaming down her cheeks. He hadn't noticed that she was wearing her coat and clutching her purse, clearly about to leave. In that moment, standing in the million-dollar home they shared, Simone realized something that had been growing true for the past 3 years. She was invisible. Not invisible in the way that a stranger might overlook someone in a crowd. Invisible in the way that only a spouse can make you feel. The kind of invisibility that comes from being so taken for granted that your presence or absence makes no difference at all. "I'm going to the hospital," she said quietly, no longer expecting a response. "My mother had a heart attack." She walked out the door and Nathan didn't even look up. That night marked a turning point, though Simone didn't fully understand it yet. As she sat in the harsh fluorescent lighting of the hospital waiting room, her mother stabilized but still unconscious, Simone thought about the hundreds of other moments just like that one. The times she tried to tell Nathan about her day and he'd interrupted with a work call. The anniversary dinners he'd canceled. The art shows he'd promised to attend but never did. The way he introduced her at business functions as "my wife," but never by her name, as if her identity existed only in relation to him. Simone was 32 years old, and she'd spent the last 5 years of her life being Nathan Pierce's wife. Before that, she'd been Simone Bennett, a promising artist with a business degree from Howard University. She'd had dreams of opening her own gallery, of showcasing emerging black artists who struggled to break into the predominantly white art world. She'd had a plan, a vision, and the seed money from her mother's life insurance policy after her father died. Then she met Nathan at a networking event. He was 28, already running a successful tech startup, and he'd looked at her like she was the only woman in the room. He'd asked about her art, her dreams, her goals. He'd seemed genuinely interested in everything she said. They'd dated for a year, and during that time, Nathan had been attentive and loving. He'd come to her art shows, had bought 3 of her paintings, had told everyone who would listen about his brilliant girlfriend. When he proposed, Simone's mother had been cautious. "Baby, I like Nathan, but I see how busy he is with his work. Are you sure he'll have time for a marriage?" Simone had laughed off the concern. Of course Nathan would make time. He loved her. He'd said so 100 times. They'd gotten married in a beautiful ceremony overlooking the ocean. Nathan had written his own vows, promising to support her dreams the way she supported his. For the first year he'd kept that promise. He'd attended her gallery openings, had introduced her to collectors, had encouraged her to keep painting. But then Pierce Technologies had started growing faster than anyone expected. Nathan landed a major contract with a Fortune 500 company. Then another. Then another. Suddenly he was flying to Los Angeles, New York, London, Singapore. He was working 18-hour days. He was the rising star of the tech world, the young black CEO everyone wanted to profile in their magazine. And slowly, steadily, Simone had started to fade into the background. At first she'd understood. Building an empire took time and focus. She'd thrown herself into supporting him, managing their home, attending the endless networking dinners and charity galas. She'd put her art on hold, telling herself it was temporary, just until things settled down. But things never settled down. They only got busier. Nathan's company went public, making him a billionaire at 33. They'd moved from their modest condo to a penthouse overlooking the city. They'd hired a housekeeper, a personal assistant for Nathan, a driver. Their world had expanded in every way except the one that mattered. Their marriage had shrunk to almost nothing. Simone sat in the hospital waiting room, watching the sun rise through the windows, and made a mental list of everything Nathan didn't know about her anymore. He didn't know that she still painted sometimes, late at night when she couldn't sleep, creating pieces she hid in the guest room closet. He didn't know that she'd been taking business classes online, trying to prepare herself to eventually restart her gallery dreams. He didn't know that she volunteered at the community center every Tuesday, teaching art to underprivileged kids. He didn't know because he'd never asked. In 3 years, Nathan had not asked her a single meaningful question about her life, her dreams, or her feelings. Her aunt arrived at 7 in the morning, bringing coffee and breakfast sandwiches. "Your mama woke up about an hour ago," she said, hugging Simone tightly. "Doctors say she's going to be okay, but she needs to take it easy. No more working 2 jobs at her age." Relief flooded through Simone, so powerful it made her dizzy. "Thank God. Can I see her?" "In a bit. They're running some tests." Her aunt studied her face. "Where's Nathan? I thought he'd be here with you." Simone wrapped her hands around the coffee cup, feeling its warmth. "He's busy with work." Her aunt's expression hardened. "Your mama's in the hospital and that man is busy with work?" "Simone, baby, when are you going to admit this marriage isn't what you thought it would be?" "It's fine," Simone said automatically, the same response she'd given everyone for years. "Nathan's under a lot of pressure right now. Building a company isn't easy. Building a marriage isn't easy either, and it seems like you're the only one trying." Simone didn't have an answer for that because her aunt was right. She was the only one trying. She was the one who remembered their anniversary, who planned date nights that Nathan inevitably canceled, who kept their home running smoothly, who attended every business function with a smile even though she knew Nathan would abandon her the moment someone important wanted to talk business. She was exhausted from trying. Her phone buzzed with a text message. For one hopeful moment she thought it might be Nathan finally checking in. Instead it was from her best friend Tasha, who had already heard about her mother through the family grapevine. "On my way to the hospital. Have you eaten? Did Nathan come with you?" Simone typed back a response saying she was fine and Nathan was working. Even through text she couldn't bring herself to tell the truth. Saying it out loud made it too real. Her mother was moved to a regular room by 9 o'clock. Simone sat beside her bed, holding her hand, watching the steady beep of the heart monitor. Her mother's eyes fluttered open and she smiled weakly. "Baby girl," she whispered. "I'm okay. Don't look so worried." "You scared me, Mama." Simone brushed tears from her cheeks. "I can't lose you." "You're not losing me. I'm too stubborn to go anywhere." Her mother squeezed her hand. "But this is a wake-up call. I've been pushing myself too hard, working too much. Doctor says I need to slow down." "You're going to slow down," Simone said firmly. "I'm going to make sure of it. And you're definitely quitting that second job." Her mother's eyes grew concerned. "Honey, I need that income. The medical bills alone." "I'll handle it," Simone interrupted. "Nathan and I can help. We have more than enough." Even as she said it, Simone felt a twist of uncertainty. She had access to Nathan's accounts, technically, but she hadn't looked at them in months. He handled all the finances, always had. She had her own bank account from before the marriage, but it had maybe $15,000 left. She'd used most of her savings to invest in Nathan's company in the early days, back when he'd promised they were partners in everything. Her phone buzzed again. This time it was Nathan. "Heading into a meeting. We'll be late tonight. Don't wait up." No question about her mother. No acknowledgement of the emergency that had pulled her from their home at 8 o'clock the night before. Just a simple announcement of his schedule, as if she were his assistant rather than his wife. Simone stared at the message for a long moment. Then she typed a response. "My mother had a heart attack last night. I'm at St. Vincent's Hospital. I told you this before I left, but you weren't listening." She hit send before she could second-guess herself. For once, she was going to make him acknowledge that he'd failed her. She was going to make him see that his indifference had consequences. The typing dots appeared immediately, disappeared, then appeared again. Finally his response came through. "Oh my God, Simone, I'm so sorry. I was distracted. Is she okay? Do you need me to come?" The words should have comforted her. Instead they made something inside her chest crack open. Because she knew with absolute certainty that even if she said yes, even if she begged him to come, Nathan would find a reason why his meeting was too important. He would promise to come later and then forget. He would send flowers to the hospital room and think that solved everything. "She's stable. Don't worry about it," Simone typed back. "I know you're busy." She turned off her phone after that, unable to bear any more of his meaningless apologies. Tasha arrived an hour later with food, flowers, and an expression that meant she was ready to say all the things Simone didn't want to hear. They'd been friends since college, and Tasha had never particularly liked Nathan. She thought he was too focused on himself, too ambitious, too quick to dismiss things that didn't serve his goals. "How's Mama Beverly?" Tasha asked, setting the flowers on the windowsill. "Tired but okay. They want to keep her for a few days to monitor her heart." "And how are you?" Tasha sat down in the chair beside Simone's, her dark eyes full of concern. "I'm fine." "Simone, don't do that. Don't give me the same fake answer you give everyone else. I'm your best friend. I see through it." Simone looked at her mother, sleeping peacefully now, then back at Tasha. For the first time in years, she let the truth come out. "I think my marriage is over. Actually, I don't think it is. I know it is. It's been over for a while, but last night made me finally admit it." Tasha reached over and took her hand. "Tell me everything." So Simone did. She told her about standing in the foyer, about Nathan's complete lack of awareness, about the years of feeling invisible. She told her about the canceled plans, the forgotten promises, the way Nathan treated her like a piece of furniture that was nice to have but ultimately unimportant. She told her about how she'd lost herself somewhere along the way, how the vibrant woman who dreamed of owning galleries and showcasing art had turned into someone who just existed in the shadows of her husband's success. "Why haven't you left him?" Tasha asked gently. Simone considered the question. "Because leaving means admitting I was wrong. It means facing my mother, who warned me this might happen. It means starting over at 32 with nothing but failed dreams and a broken heart." "No," Tasha corrected. "Leaving means choosing yourself. It means reclaiming the dreams Nathan convinced you to set aside. And you wouldn't be starting with nothing. You'd be starting with everything you've learned, all the strength you've built, and all the talent you've always had." Simone wanted to believe her. She wanted to believe she could walk away and rebuild her life. But the thought of it felt overwhelming, impossible. "I don't even know where I'd start," she admitted. "You start by deciding you deserve better than this. The rest comes after." They sat in comfortable silence for a while, watching Simone's mother sleep. Finally, Tasha stood up to leave, hugging Simone tightly. "I'm serious about this," she whispered. "You're not invisible. You're just married to a man who refuses to see you. There's a difference, and the sooner you recognize that, the sooner you can find your way back to yourself." After Tasha left, Simone sat alone with her thoughts. Her phone was still off, tucked in her purse. She knew there were probably messages waiting, probably more empty apologies from Nathan. But she didn't want to read them. She didn't want to fall back into the pattern of accepting crumbs of attention and calling it love. Something had shifted inside her last night. Standing in that foyer, being ignored in her moment of crisis, Simone had finally seen her marriage clearly. And what she saw was a future of more invisibility, more loneliness, more of watching her dreams die while Nathan's flourished. She didn't want that future. As the day wore on and her mother rested peacefully, Simone turned her phone back on. There were 7 messages from Nathan, each one more panicked than the last. The final one said he was coming to the hospital after his meeting. Simone texted him back. "Don't bother. Stay at work. I'll be here a few days helping my mother. Take care of whatever you need to." His response was immediate. "Are you sure? I can clear my schedule." "I'm sure. We'll talk when I get home." She meant it too. They needed to talk. They needed to have the conversation they'd been avoiding for years, the one about how their marriage had died somewhere along the way and neither of them had been willing to admit it. But as Simone sat in that hospital room, something else began growing inside her. Not just sadness or resignation, but something sharper. Something stronger. Anger. Simone stayed at the hospital for 3 days, sleeping in the uncomfortable chair beside her mother's bed, eating vending machine food and avoiding Nathan's calls. He tried repeatedly to reach her, had even sent his assistant with flowers and a card that read, "Thinking of you." But Simone knew the difference between genuine concern and obligation. Nathan was checking a box, fulfilling his duty as a husband, nothing more. On the 4th day, when her mother was cleared to go home with strict instructions to rest, Simone finally returned to the penthouse. She arrived at 2 in the afternoon, expecting the place to be empty since Nathan should have been at work. Instead, she heard voices coming from his home office. Simone set her bag down quietly, frowning. Nathan rarely took meetings at home. He always said the penthouse was his sanctuary from work, the one place he could disconnect. But there he was, his voice carrying through the door, and he wasn't alone. "We need to be more careful," a woman's voice said. It was smooth, confident, and unfamiliar. "Your wife might start asking questions." Simone's blood turned to ice. She moved closer to the office door, which was slightly ajar. Simone doesn't pay attention to my schedule, Nathan responded. His tone was dismissive, almost contemptuous. She's too busy playing homemaker to notice where I am or who I'm with. The woman laughed, and it was a cruel sound. Still, we should be smart about this. I don't want any complications when you file for divorce. I'm not filing yet. The company's about to close the merger with Patterson Industries. My lawyers say a divorce right now could complicate things, make me look unstable. We need to wait another 6 months, maybe a year. A year? The woman's voice turned sharp. Nathan, you promised me this was temporary. You said once the company stabilized. And it will. I just need time. Besides, what's the rush? We still get to be together. Simone doesn't suspect anything. Simone pressed her hand against the wall to steady herself. The room spun around her. She'd known things were bad, had known Nathan didn't love her anymore, but she hadn't imagined this. An affair. Planning a divorce. Discussing her like she was an inconvenient obstacle to work around. I hate sneaking around, the woman continued. I hate watching you pretend to be the devoted husband at company events while I have to stand in the background like I mean nothing. Gabrielle, baby, come here. There was a pause, and Simone could picture Nathan pulling this woman into his arms. You're not nothing to me. You're everything. Simone is just a placeholder. Someone I married before I understood what I really wanted. But you're my partner in every way. You understand the business, the pressure, the ambition. She never did. Simone had heard enough. She pushed herself away from the door and walked back to the foyer on shaking legs. She felt like she might vomit. Her husband was having an affair with someone named Gabrielle, and from the sound of it, this wasn't some brief fling. This was a full relationship, complete with promises and future plans. How long had this been going on? How many times had Nathan claimed to be working late when he was actually with her? How many business trips had been covers for romantic getaways? Simone grabbed her purse and left the penthouse as quietly as she'd entered. She couldn't face Nathan right now, couldn't trust herself not to storm into that office and say things she might regret. She needed time to think, to process, to figure out what came next. She drove aimlessly for an hour before finding herself parked outside Tasha's apartment building. Her friend answered the door in leggings and an oversized sweater, took one look at Simone's face and pulled her inside. What happened? Simone told her everything she'd overheard. With each word, Tasha's expression grew darker. That absolute piece of garbage, Tasha said when Simone finished. Who is this Gabrielle person? I don't know. I've never heard him mention that name before. Let me look her up. Tasha grabbed her laptop and started typing. Within minutes, she'd pulled up a LinkedIn profile. Gabrielle Laurent. She's the marketing director at Pierce Technologies. Started working there 18 months ago. Before that, she was at a firm in New York. Simone leaned over to look at the photo. Gabrielle was beautiful in a polished, corporate way. Sleek dark hair, perfect makeup, designer clothes. She looked like the kind of woman who belonged in Nathan's world, who could keep up with his 18-hour workdays and understand his business jargon. She's been working there for a year and a half, Simone said slowly. So this affair has been going on at least that long, maybe longer? Tasha studied the profile. There's pictures of her at company events. Look, here she is at the launch party for the Patterson merger negotiations. And here, at the tech conference in Las Vegas 6 months ago. Simone clicked through the photos, her heart sinking with each one. Nathan and Gabrielle standing close together, their body language intimate even in professional settings. How had she missed this? How had everyone missed this? But even as she asked the question, Simone knew the answer. No one had been looking. Nathan's employees wouldn't question his relationship with his marketing director. The business world was full of close professional partnerships. And Simone had been so absent from Nathan's work life that she wouldn't have noticed if he'd brought Gabrielle home for dinner. She'd been invisible not just to Nathan, but to the entire narrative of his life. What are you going to do? Tasha asked gently. Simone sat back, thinking about Nathan's words. He wasn't planning to file for divorce yet because it might complicate the merger. He was using their marriage as a business strategy, keeping her around until it was convenient to discard her. And meanwhile, he would continue his affair, continue treating Simone like she didn't matter, continue planning a future that didn't include her. I'm going to beat him to it, Simone said, her voice harder than she'd ever heard it. I'm going to file for divorce first, on my terms and my timing. And I'm going to make sure I get everything I'm entitled to. Tasha's eyes widened. You're serious? Completely. Nathan thinks I'm clueless, that I'll just accept whatever he decides to give me when he's ready to end things. But he's wrong. I helped build Pierce Technologies. I was there in the beginning when he was bootstrapping the company out of our apartment. I invested $25,000 of my own money from my father's life insurance, to help him hire his first employees. I sat through countless dinners with potential investors, charming them while Nathan made his pitch. I've earned my share of that company. Can you prove the investment? I don't know. I'd have to look through our old bank statements. But even if I can't, California is a community property state. Anything acquired during the marriage is split 50-50. Tasha pulled up a search on her laptop. You need a lawyer. A really good one. Someone who specializes in high-asset divorces. They spent the next 2 hours researching divorce attorneys. Finally, they found one with an impressive track record of winning large settlements for wronged spouses. Her name was Patricia Chin, and her office was in downtown Los Angeles. Wait, I can't use Chin. Let me change that. They spent the next 2 hours researching divorce attorneys. Finally, they found one with an impressive track record of winning large settlements for wronged spouses. Her name was Patricia Montgomery, and her office was in downtown Los Angeles. Her reviews are incredible, Tasha said, reading through testimonials. She specializes in cases where one spouse has been financially deceptive or unfaithful. And look at this. She secured a $20 million settlement for a client last year. Simone's hands trembled as she dialed the number. A receptionist answered and put her through to Patricia directly, which surprised her. I make myself available for initial consultations, Patricia explained. Her voice was warm but professional. Tell me about your situation. Simone laid it all out. The neglect, the affair, the overheard conversation, Nathan's plans to delay the divorce for business reasons. Patricia listened without interrupting. Can you meet tomorrow morning at 9? Patricia finally asked. I'll need to see documentation. Bank statements, investment records, anything that shows your financial contribution to the marriage and the business. Also, if you have any evidence of the affair, that will be helpful. I don't have evidence yet. I only found out today. Then we'll get it. Do you have access to his email or phone? No, he's protective of his devices. That's fine. We have investigators who can help with that. The important thing is that you're taking action now before he realizes you know. The element of surprise is our biggest advantage. After hanging up, Simone felt energized for the first time in years. She wasn't going to be a passive victim of Nathan's choices anymore. She was going to take control of her own narrative. Where are you staying tonight? Tasha asked. You can't go back to the penthouse. Actually, I think I should. I need to act normal until I meet with Patricia and figure out my strategy. If Nathan realizes I know about the affair, he might start hiding assets or preparing his own legal defense. Are you sure you can pull that off? Pretending everything is fine? Simone thought about the years she'd spent pretending to be happy in a failing marriage. I've had plenty of practice. She drove back to the penthouse as the sun set, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. Nathan's car was in the garage, which meant he was home. Simone took a deep breath, squared her shoulders and walked inside. Nathan was in the kitchen heating up leftovers. He looked up when she entered, his expression guilty. Simone, I'm glad you're home. We need to talk about the other day. I'm sorry I wasn't there for you when your mother was in the hospital. I was completely wrapped up in work and I failed you as a husband. The apology sounded rehearsed, like he'd practiced it in the mirror. Simone wondered if Gabrielle had helped him write it. It's fine, Simone said, keeping her voice neutral. My mother is doing better. She's home now and resting. That's great. Nathan moved toward her as if to hug her, then seemed to think better of it. Listen, I know I haven't been the best partner lately. Things have been crazy with the Patterson merger. But once that's finalized, I promise we'll take a trip. Maybe somewhere tropical, just the two of us. We can reconnect. Simone looked at her husband and felt nothing. No love, no anger, not even sadness anymore. Just a cold, clear determination to get what she deserved and move on with her life. That sounds nice, she lied. I'd like that. Relief washed over Nathan's face. Really? Great. I'll have my assistant look into resorts this weekend. They ate dinner in awkward silence, Nathan scrolling through his phone between bites. Simone watched him, wondering how she'd ever loved this man. Had he always been this self-absorbed, or had success changed him? Or maybe she thought she'd been so busy seeing what she wanted to see that she'd missed who he really was. After dinner, Nathan retreated to his office for a conference call with London. Simone went to their bedroom and pulled out her laptop. She needed to find her bank records from 5 years ago, needed proof of her investment in Pierce Technologies. She searched through their shared cloud storage looking for financial documents. Most of it was Nathan's business records, but eventually she found a folder labeled Personal Finances 2020. She opened it and started scrolling. There. A wire transfer from her personal account to Pierce Technologies for $25,000, dated 3 months before their wedding. The memo line read, "Startup investment per agreement." What agreement? Simone didn't remember signing anything formal. She and Nathan had been engaged, planning a life together. When he'd needed capital to expand the company, she'd given it freely, trusting that they were partners. She kept searching and found more. Another $15,000 6 months later. Then $10,000 more after that. By the time they'd gotten married, Simone had invested $50,000 in Pierce Technologies. And she'd never received a single dividend, never been listed as a shareholder, never been given any formal stake in the company she'd helped fund. Nathan had used her money to build his empire and given her nothing in return except a wedding ring and empty promises. Simone took screenshots of everything, emailing them to herself from a new account Nathan didn't know about. She documented every financial transaction, every piece of evidence that showed her contribution to his success. As she worked, she heard Nathan's voice carrying from the office. He was laughing, that warm, genuine laugh she rarely heard anymore. Then quieter, more intimate. "I miss you too. Tomorrow night? Perfect. I'll tell Simone I have a late meeting." Simone's hands clenched into fists. But she forced herself to relax, to breathe, to remember that anger was useless right now. She needed to be smart, strategic. She needed to wait for the right moment to strike. By midnight, she'd compiled a comprehensive file of financial records. She saved everything to a thumb drive and hid it in her purse. Then she got ready for bed, climbing under the covers just as Nathan emerged from his office. "Sorry about the late call," he said, changing into his pajamas. "The London office has been a nightmare this week." "It's okay. I understand." The lies came easily now, sliding off her tongue like water. Nathan got into bed beside her, keeping to his side. They hadn't touched in months, hadn't been intimate in almost a year. Their marriage was dead in every way except legally. "Good night," Nathan said, already reaching for his phone to check emails one last time. "Good night," Simone echoed, turning away from him. She lay in the darkness, listening to her husband's breathing slow and even out as he fell asleep. And she thought about tomorrow, about meeting Patricia Montgomery and starting the process of reclaiming her life. Nathan thought she was invisible, thought she would never realize her worth. But he was wrong. Simone Bennett Pierce was done being overlooked. She was done settling for crumbs of attention and calling it marriage. She was ready to fight for everything she deserved. And Nathan Pierce, Billionaire CEO, had absolutely no idea what was coming. Simone arrived at Patricia Montgomery's office at 8:45, 15 minutes early. The law firm occupied the entire 20th floor of a sleek glass tower, with floor-to-ceiling windows offering views of the city below. Everything about the space spoke of power, success, and winning. A receptionist led her to Patricia's corner office, where a woman in her 50s sat behind a massive mahogany desk. Patricia had steel-gray hair cut in a sharp bob, piercing blue eyes, and the kind of presence that commanded attention. "Mrs. Pierce, thank you for coming." Patricia gestured to a leather chair across from her desk. "I've reviewed the documents you emailed last night. Very thorough." "Thank you. I wanted to make sure I had everything organized." Patricia opened a file folder. "Let's talk about what you're entitled to. California community property law is very clear. Any assets acquired during the marriage are split 50-50, regardless of whose name they're in. Pierce Technologies was founded before your marriage, but it grew significantly during your marriage, correct? Nathan started the company 2 years before we got married. It was just him and 3 employees working out of a small office. Everything that made it successful happened after we wed. The major contracts, the expansion, the IPO, all of it. That works in our favor. We can argue that the company's growth is a marital asset. You're entitled to half of that value." Simone's breath caught. But Nathan is worth over $1 billion now. According to public records, Pierce Technologies is valued at approximately $2.3 billion. Nathan owns 62% of the company. That's about $1.4 billion. Half of that would be $700 million. The number was so large it didn't seem real. Simone had never imagined. "However," Patricia continued, "he'll fight this. Most high-net-worth divorces end up in protracted legal battles. Nathan will claim you're not entitled to that much, that your contribution was minimal, that the company's success was entirely his doing. We'll need to prove otherwise. I have the investment records. $50,000 in the first year. That's a start, but we need more. We need to demonstrate your ongoing contribution to his success. Did you help with the business in other ways? Simone thought back to those early years. I did everything. When we first got married, I managed his calendar, helped him prepare for investor meetings, made connections with people through my art network. Some of Nathan's earliest clients came through people I introduced him to at gallery openings. Do you have documentation of this? Emails, calendars, anything? Maybe. I'd have to check my old email accounts. Do that. Every piece of evidence strengthens your case. Patricia made notes on a legal pad. Now tell me about the affair. You said you overheard a conversation between Nathan and this woman, Gabrielle Laurent? Simone recounted what she'd heard. Patricia's expression remained neutral, but her pen moved rapidly across the page. Infidelity doesn't impact the financial settlement in California, but it does affect the public narrative, Patricia explained. If we can prove Nathan has been having an affair, it damages his reputation and makes him more likely to settle quickly to avoid scrutiny. How do we prove it? I have investigators who specialize in this kind of work. They'll follow Nathan and Gabrielle, document their interactions, gather evidence. It usually takes a few weeks. A few weeks. Simone would have to continue pretending, continue living in that penthouse with Nathan, continue the charade of a marriage. The thought exhausted her. Is there any way to speed this up? We could serve him with papers right away, but I'd advise against it. The more information we have before he knows you're divorcing him, the better. Right now he thinks you're clueless. That's a powerful advantage. I just don't know how much longer I can keep up the act. Patricia's expression softened slightly. I understand this is difficult. But think of it as an investment in your future. A few more weeks of discomfort in exchange for the financial security you deserve. Can you do that? Simone nodded slowly. She could do anything if it meant getting away from Nathan. Good. In the meantime, I want you to start building your own identity separate from him. Open a new bank account he doesn't know about. Transfer some money into it, nothing so large that he'd notice, but enough to have resources. Start reconnecting with your own interests, your own friends. The more independent you become now, the easier the transition will be later. Simone left Patricia's office feeling both empowered and overwhelmed. She had a plan now, a path forward. But the road ahead looked long and difficult. She drove to her mother's house, a modest two-bedroom in a quiet neighborhood. Her mother was in the living room watching a cooking show, still wearing the heart monitor the hospital had sent her home with. Baby girl, her mother greeted her with a warm smile. I wasn't expecting you today. Is everything okay? Simone sat beside her on the couch. Mama, I need to tell you something. Nathan and I are getting divorced. Her mother turned off the television, giving Simone her full attention. Tell me everything. So Simone did. She told her about the years of neglect, about the affair, about meeting with Patricia. Her mother listened quietly, her hand reaching out to hold Simone's. I'm proud of you, her mother said when Simone finished. It takes courage to walk away from something that isn't working, especially when the world sees it as successful. Everyone thinks you have the perfect life, the rich husband, the beautiful home. They don't see what happens behind closed doors. I feel like I failed, Simone admitted. Like I should have tried harder to make it work. Baby, you can't make a marriage work alone. That takes two people who are equally committed. Nathan chose his career over you, chose another woman over you. That's not your failure. That's his. Simone leaned into her mother's embrace, feeling some of the weight lift from her shoulders. I'm scared, Mama. What if I can't do this? What if I'm not strong enough? You're Beverly Bennett's daughter. You're stronger than you know. And you're not doing this alone. You've got me, you've got Tasha, you've got that fierce lawyer. We're all here to support you. They spent the afternoon together, cooking her mother's famous gumbo and talking about Simone's plans for the future. For the first time in years, Simone allowed herself to dream about what came next. Not as Nathan's wife, but as Simone Bennett, artist and entrepreneur. What about your art? Her mother asked as they chopped vegetables. Are you still painting? Sometimes. Late at night when I can't sleep. I want to see your recent work. Bring some pieces next time you visit. The request touched something deep in Simone's heart. Nathan had never asked to see her art, had never shown any interest in the thing that once defined her. But her mother, even recovering from a heart attack, wanted to know about the creative part of Simone's soul. I will, Simone promised. Over the next 2 weeks, Simone followed Patricia's advice. She opened a new bank account under her maiden name and transferred $5,000 into it. She started going to the gym every morning, reclaiming her body and her health. She bought new clothes in vibrant colors, A red dress that made her feel powerful, emerald green slacks that brought out her eyes, a royal blue blazer that screamed confidence. She also started painting again, setting up an easel in the guest room. The paintings that emerged were different from her earlier work. They were bolder, more raw, filled with emotion she'd been suppressing for years. She painted a woman breaking free from chains. She painted a phoenix rising from ashes. She painted her truth onto canvas. Nathan barely noticed. He was consumed with work, coming home late most nights, always on his phone. Several times, Simone heard him whispering in his office, clearly talking to Gabrielle. Each time she felt nothing. The betrayal had lost its power to hurt her because she'd already emotionally left the marriage. Patricia's investigator sent regular updates. Photographs of Nathan and Gabrielle having dinner at expensive restaurants. Video of them entering a hotel together. More photos of them at what appeared to be a weekend getaway in Santa Barbara. The evidence was overwhelming. "We have more than enough to prove the affair," Patricia told Simone during one of their check-in calls. "My investigator also discovered something interesting. Gabrielle has been receiving bonuses and stock options that seem disproportionate to her role in the company. We might be able to argue that Nathan has been using marital assets to benefit his mistress." "What does that mean for the settlement?" "It means we have leverage. A lot of leverage." Simone also started reconnecting with her old life. She reached out to gallery owners she'd known before her marriage, mentioning she was painting again. One of them, a woman named Helena who ran a prestigious gallery in Beverly Hills, invited her to lunch. They met at an upscale bistro, and Helena's eyes lit up when she saw Simone. "You look amazing. Marriage clearly agrees with you." Simone smiled, not correcting the assumption. "Thank you. I've been working on some new pieces. Would you be interested in seeing them?" "Absolutely. Your early work was stunning. I've always wondered why you stopped showing." "Life got complicated. But I'm finding my way back to it." They talked for 2 hours about art, about the current trends in the Los Angeles gallery scene, about potential opportunities. Helena mentioned a group show she was curating for emerging and returning artists. "I'd love to include your work if it's ready. The show opens in 3 months." 3 months. That would be right around when the divorce was finalized, assuming everything went smoothly. The timing felt like fate. "I'll have pieces ready," Simone promised. She left the lunch feeling energized. Her life was taking shape piece by piece. She was no longer Nathan Pierce's invisible wife. She was Simone Bennett, artist, soon-to-be ex-wife and future success story. That evening, she came home to find Nathan in the living room with Gabrielle. They were sitting on the couch together, reviewing documents, but they jumped apart when Simone entered. "Simone," Nathan said, his voice tight. "I didn't realize you'd be home so early. This is Gabrielle Laurent, our marketing director. We're working on the presentation for the Patterson merger." Simone looked at Gabrielle, really seeing her for the first time in person. She was beautiful but cold, with ambition practically radiating off her. This was the woman Nathan had chosen over his marriage. "Nice to meet you," Simone said pleasantly, extending her hand. Gabrielle shook it, her grip firm. "I've heard so much about you, Mrs. Pierce." "I'm sure you have." Simone kept her smile in place, enjoying the flicker of uncertainty in Gabrielle's eyes. Did this woman wonder how much Simone knew? Did she feel guilty at all, or did she simply see Simone as an obstacle to overcome? "We're almost done here," Nathan said quickly. "Give us 15 minutes. Take your time. I'll be in the guest room." Simone walked away, feeling both their gazes on her back. In the guest room, she pulled out her phone and texted Patricia. "The mistress is in my home. They're together right now." Patricia's response came immediately. "Stay calm. Don't confront them. This actually helps our case. Document what time she arrived and left." So Simone waited. She heard their voices, low and urgent, then heard the front door close 20 minutes later. She gave it another 5 minutes before emerging from the guest room. Nathan was pouring himself a drink in the kitchen, his shoulders tense. "Everything okay with the presentation?" Simone asked innocently. "Fine. Great, actually. The merger should be finalized by the end of next month." "That's wonderful. You've worked so hard for this." Nathan looked at her, really looked at her for the first time in weeks. "You seem different lately. Happier somehow." "Do I? Maybe I am. I've been painting again, reconnecting with some old friends. It feels good to have my own interests." Something flickered across Nathan's face. "Discomfort? Guilt? That's good. I'm glad you're finding things to keep you busy." Keep her busy. As if her entire existence was just about filling time while he lived his real life. Simone felt a flash of the old anger but pushed it down. Soon, very soon, Nathan would understand exactly how busy she'd been. "I'm going to bed," she announced. "Long day tomorrow. Good night." Simone went to their bedroom but she didn't sleep. Instead, she pulled out her laptop and worked on her artist statement for Helena's gallery show. She wrote about transformation, about finding yourself after being lost, about the strength it takes to walk away from a life that looks perfect from the outside. She wrote her truth and it felt like power. By the time the sun rose, Simone had finished the statement, and she knew with absolute certainty that she was ready for what came next. Ready to serve the divorce papers. Ready to face the public scrutiny. Ready to claim the life she deserved. Nathan Pierce had ignored his wife for too long. Now she was going to make sure he never forgot her. The next 3 weeks passed in a blur of preparation. Simone moved through her days with purpose, each action carefully calculated. She was no longer drifting through her marriage. She was planning her escape. Patricia's investigator had compiled an extensive file on Nathan and Gabrielle's affair. There were dozens of photographs showing them together in compromising situations. Financial records proved Nathan had been giving Gabrielle generous bonuses and stock options worth over $200,000. Text messages recovered from Nathan's company phone revealed the extent of their relationship, including discussions about leaving Simone once the merger was complete. "This is everything we need," Patricia told Simone during a meeting at her office. "We can prove systematic fraud against the marital estate, adultery and financial misconduct. Nathan's going to have a very difficult time defending himself. When do we serve him?" "Soon. But first, I want you to do something that might feel uncomfortable. I want you to attend the Pierce Technologies charity gala next month." Simone frowned. "Why would I want to go to that?" "Because Nathan and Gabrielle will be there together, playing their roles as CEO and marketing director while you, the wife, sit at home. I want you to show up, looking absolutely incredible, and remind everyone that you exist. It will throw Nathan off balance, which is exactly where we want him before we serve the papers. Won't that tip him off that I know something?" "Maybe. But by then it won't matter. We'll serve him with papers the morning after the gala. He'll be so distracted by your appearance at the event that he won't see it coming." Simone considered this. The thought of attending one of Nathan's work events made her stomach turn. She'd attended so many over the years, always playing the supportive wife, always fading into the background while Nathan worked the room. But this time would be different. This time she would be there for herself. "Okay," she agreed. "I'll go." "Good. Now let's talk about your entrance. I want maximum impact." Patricia had clearly thought this through. She recommended a stylist, a makeup artist and a personal shopper. She suggested Simone arrive at the gala alone, after the event had already started, so her entrance would be noticed. "Make them remember you," Patricia said. "Make Nathan realize what he's losing. Then we file the papers and take him for everything he's worth." Simone left the meeting feeling both nervous and excited. She'd spent years being invisible. Now she was going to step into the spotlight. She started with the personal shopper, a woman named Monica who specialized in high-end fashion. They met at a boutique in Beverly Hills, surrounded by designer gowns and accessories. "Tell me what you're looking for," Monica said, her dark eyes assessing Simone with professional interest. "I want to look powerful. Unforgettable. I want every person in that room to notice me." Monica smiled. "I think I have just the thing." She pulled out a gown in deep emerald green, the color of expensive jewels. The dress was stunning, a fitted bodice that flared into a flowing skirt, with a neckline that was elegant without being revealing. The fabric shimmered when it caught the light. Simone tried it on, and when she looked in the mirror she barely recognized herself. The woman staring back was confident, beautiful, powerful. This wasn't Nathan Pierce's forgotten wife. This was Simone Bennett ready to reclaim her life. "Perfect," Monica declared. "Now let's find shoes and accessories." They spent the next 2 hours assembling the complete look. Gold earrings that caught the light. A delicate bracelet that had belonged to Monica's grandmother. Shoes in metallic gold that made Simone feel 6 feet tall. When Simone finally left the boutique, she felt transformed. The gown was more than just clothing. It was armor. She also continued working on her art. The pieces for Helena's gallery show were coming together, each one more powerful than the last. She painted a woman walking away from a burning mansion, her back to the flames, her face toward the horizon. She painted hands breaking free from golden chains. She painted her journey from invisibility to strength. Helena came to the penthouse one afternoon to see the work. Her eyes widened as she moved from canvas to canvas. Simone, these are extraordinary. The emotion, the technique, the narrative. This is museum-quality work. Really? Simone felt a flush of pride. Really? I want to feature your pieces prominently in the show. In fact, I'd like to consider a solo exhibition for you next year if you're interested. A solo exhibition. It was everything Simone had dreamed of before Nathan, before the marriage, before she'd lost herself. I'm very interested. Wonderful. Let's plan on it. Helena made notes in her planner. I'll need about 15 to 20 pieces for a full solo show. Think you can produce that in a year? Absolutely. After Helena left, Simone stood in her makeshift studio, looking at her paintings. This was her future. Not as someone's wife, but as an artist in her own right. The thought filled her with joy. She also started reaching out to other old contacts. She called the executive director of the community center where she'd volunteered before her marriage, offering to restart the youth art program she'd once run. She reached out to other artists she'd known in college, rebuilding connections she'd let fade. Each conversation, each new connection made her feel more like herself. The woman Nathan had ignored was disappearing, replaced by someone stronger. But she still had to maintain the charade at home. Nathan noticed her absences but didn't question them. He was too wrapped up in preparations for the merger and, presumably, too distracted by Gabrielle. One evening, about 2 weeks before the gala, Nathan actually initiated a conversation at dinner. I've been thinking about that vacation I mentioned. The tropical trip after the merger closes. Where would you want to go? Simone looked at her husband across the table. Did he really think a vacation would fix their marriage? Or was this just part of his plan to maintain appearances until he was ready to file for divorce? The Maldives, she said, naming the most expensive option she could think of. I've always wanted to see the overwater bungalows. The Maldives. That's pretty far. Well, you said we'd reconnect. Might as well do it somewhere beautiful. Right. Good point. I'll have my assistant look into it. They both knew the trip would never happen. Simone would be serving him with divorce papers in a month. But she played along, maintaining the fiction of their marriage for just a little longer. Tasha came over the next weekend to help Simone practice for the gala. She'd arranged for the makeup artist and hairstylist to do a trial run, wanting to make sure everything was perfect. You need to walk in there like you own the place, Tasha coached as Simone modeled the emerald gown. Head high, shoulders back, absolute confidence. Simone practiced her entrance, walking across the living room as if it were a ballroom. At first, she felt self-conscious, but gradually she found her rhythm. By the 10th time, she moved with genuine confidence. That's it, Tasha said, grinning. That's the energy. Nathan's going to lose his mind when he sees you. The hairstylist, a talented woman named Kendra, had suggested an elegant updo that showed off Simone's features. The makeup artist, Rico, created a look that was dramatic but sophisticated. When they finished, Simone stared at herself in the mirror, amazed by the transformation. You look like a queen, Kendra said. I feel like one. The week before the gala, Patricia called with an update. Nathan's attorneys have been in touch. They want to schedule a mediation for the divorce. Simone's heart skipped. He knows? No. This is standard. I reached out to his team asking about his availability for a potential mediation, pretending it was for a different client. They suggested some dates in 6 weeks. It confirms what we already knew. He's not planning to file anytime soon. He thinks he has all the time in the world. But he doesn't. No, he doesn't. We're serving him the morning after the gala as planned. I've already arranged for a process server to deliver the papers to his office at 8 a.m. By the time he reads them, you'll be safely moved out of the penthouse. Moved out? Where will I go? I've arranged for temporary housing. A corporate apartment in Santa Monica, fully furnished. You'll move your essential belongings there the day of the gala before the event. That way, when Nathan receives the papers, you won't be under the same roof. It was really happening. Simone felt a mixture of fear and exhilaration. There's one more thing, Patricia continued. I've prepared a press statement for you in case this becomes public. High-profile divorces often attract media attention, and I want you to be ready. What kind of statement? Something dignified and brief. Confirming the divorce, stating that it's a private matter, and making it clear you're focused on your art career and future. We don't want you to come across as bitter or vengeful. We want you to look like someone moving forward with grace. Simone appreciated Patricia's thoroughness. She'd thought of everything. The day before the gala, Simone spent hours at her mother's house, talking through her fears. What if I can't do this? She asked. What if I walk into that ballroom and lose my nerve? You won't, her mother said firmly. You're doing this for you, baby. Not for Nathan, not for revenge, but for your own future. Remember that. Remember why you're walking away. I'm scared of being alone. Alone and lonely are two different things. You've been lonely for years in that marriage. Being alone might actually feel like freedom. Her mother was right. Simone had been lonely in a house full of expensive furniture, lonely at dinner tables and business events, lonely lying in bed next to a husband who barely acknowledged her existence. Being physically alone couldn't be worse than that. The morning of the gala, Simone began moving her belongings out of the penthouse. She'd packed during the week while Nathan was at work. Her clothes, her art supplies, her personal documents. Tasha arrived with a moving truck, and they loaded everything quickly. How does it feel? Tasha asked as they drove away from the building. Surreal. I keep thinking Nathan will notice, will realize something is happening. But he's so wrapped up in his own world that he hasn't even asked where I've been. The corporate apartment in Santa Monica was smaller than the penthouse but filled with light. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the ocean. The furniture was modern and comfortable. It felt like a fresh start. This is perfect, Simone said looking around. It's your new beginning. Tasha hugged her tightly. Now, let's get you ready to knock everyone's socks off. They spent the afternoon preparing. Kendra and Rico arrived at 4 o'clock to work their magic. By 6 o'clock, Simone was ready. The emerald gown fit perfectly. Her hair was elegantly styled. Her makeup was flawless. She looked in the mirror and saw a woman she'd forgotten existed. Confident. Beautiful. Strong. Are you ready? Tasha asked. Simone took a deep breath. The gala started at 7, but she wouldn't arrive until 8. The plan was to make an entrance, to be seen, and then to leave. One night of reclaiming her visibility before she disappeared from Nathan's life forever. I'm ready. The drive to the hotel where the gala was being held took 30 minutes. Simone spent the time breathing deeply, centering herself, remembering why she was doing this. Not for revenge, though that would be sweet. But for closure. For the satisfaction of showing Nathan, showing everyone, that she was more than just the invisible wife. She was Simone Bennett and she was done being overlooked. The car pulled up to the entrance of the luxury hotel at exactly 8 o'clock. A valet opened her door, offering his hand to help her out. Simone stepped onto the red carpet and everything seemed to slow down. People turned to look. Camera flashes went off. Someone called out, "Mrs. Pierce, you look stunning." Simone smiled, poised and confident, and walked through the entrance into the ballroom. The party was in full swing. Hundreds of people in expensive clothes, networking and laughing. The room glittered with crystal chandeliers and gold accents. And there, across the ballroom, stood Nathan and Gabrielle. They were standing close together, clearly comfortable in each other's presence. Gabrielle wore a black dress that hugged her figure. Nathan wore his favorite designer suit. They looked like the perfect power couple. Then Nathan saw Simone. His face went pale. His mouth opened slightly in shock. Gabrielle followed his gaze and her expression hardened. Simone smiled, a small knowing smile, and began working the room. She greeted people she'd met at previous events, accepting their compliments with grace. She talked to board members, investors, company executives. She was charming and warm, the perfect guest. And through it all, she could feel Nathan's eyes on her, watching, confused, starting to worry. This was her moment. Her night to be seen. And tomorrow morning, everything would change. The morning of the gala, Simone woke up in her new Santa Monica apartment to the sound of waves crashing against the shore. For a moment, she forgot where she was, reaching across the bed for Nathan before reality settled in. This wasn't their penthouse. Nathan wasn't beside her. And by tomorrow morning, her entire life would be different. She got up and made coffee, standing at the window to watch the ocean. The sunrise painted the sky in shades of pink and orange. It felt symbolic somehow, this new beginning coinciding with the dawn of a new day. Her phone buzzed with a text from Patricia. "Ready for tonight?" "As ready as I'll ever be," Simone typed back. "Remember, you're not doing anything wrong. You're simply attending an event. Nathan has no idea what's coming tomorrow, and that's our advantage. Stay calm, stay confident, and trust the process." Simone spent the morning at the gym working out her nervous energy. She ran on the treadmill for an hour, pushing herself harder than usual. The physical exertion helped clear her mind, helped her focus on what mattered. This wasn't about hurting Nathan. It was about freeing herself. After the gym, she met Tasha for lunch at a cafe near the beach. Tasha took one look at her face and squeezed her hand. "You look terrified." "I am terrified. What if I can't go through with it?" What if I see Nathan tonight and lose my nerve? You won't. You're stronger than that. Besides, you've already moved out of the penthouse. There's no going back now. What if he tries to talk to me? What if he makes a scene? Then you smile politely, excuse yourself and walk away. You don't owe him an explanation tonight. That's what the divorce papers are for. They talked through the plan again. Simone would arrive at 8 o'clock after the event was well underway. She'd make her entrance, be seen by the right people, and leave by 9:30. She wouldn't seek Nathan out, but she wouldn't avoid him either. The goal was to project confidence and independence. What if Gabrielle is there? Simone asked. She will be. And you're going to look her in the eye, smile and show her that you're not threatened. Because you're not. She's welcome to Nathan and all his problems. After lunch, Simone returned to her apartment to prepare. Kendra and Rico arrived at 3 o'clock earlier than planned to give themselves plenty of time. We're creating a masterpiece today, Rico announced, setting up his makeup supplies. By the time we're done, you're going to stop traffic. Kendra started with Simone's hair, washing and conditioning it before beginning the styling process. She decided on a sophisticated updo with soft curls framing Simone's face. It took over an hour, but the result was elegant and timeless. Then Rico took over with makeup. He used rich, warm tones to enhance Simone's natural beauty, creating a look that was dramatic without being over the top. Gold eyeshadow that brought out the green in her eyes. Perfectly sculpted cheekbones. Lips in a bold burgundy that demanded attention. While they worked, Tasha kept Simone distracted with funny stories and gossip. By the time they finished, it was 6:30. Okay, time to see the full effect, Kendra said, gesturing toward the full-length mirror. Simone stood and walked to the mirror. For a moment, she simply stared. The woman looking back at her was stunning. The emerald gown hugged her curves perfectly, the color making her skin glow. The updo showed off her elegant neck and shoulders. The makeup made her eyes look huge and mysterious. I can't believe that's me, she whispered. Believe it, honey, Rico said. That's who you've been all along. You just forgot for a while. Tasha's eyes filled with tears. You look incredible. Nathan's going to regret every day he took you for granted. This isn't about Nathan, Simone reminded herself, though saying it out loud helped reinforce the truth. This is about me. Damn right it is. At 7:30, Simone's car service arrived. A sleek black Mercedes arranged by Patricia's office. The driver, a kind older man named Thomas, opened the door for her. You look beautiful, ma'am. Have a wonderful evening. The drive to the hotel took 25 minutes. Simone spent the time breathing deeply, running through positive affirmations. She was strong. She was worthy. She was done being invisible. The hotel came into view, a towering luxury building lit up against the night sky. Simone could see the red carpet leading to the entrance, photographers positioned along the sides. Her heart started racing. Would you like me to wait for you? Thomas asked. Yes, please. I'll probably be ready to leave by 9:30. I'll be right here. Simone stepped out of the car at exactly 8 o'clock. The moment her gold shoes touched the red carpet, a photographer called out. Mrs. Pierce? Can we get a photo? She turned, smiled and posed. More cameras flashed. People stopped to watch her entrance. She heard whispers. Is that Nathan Pierce's wife? She looks amazing. I've never seen her look like that before. Good, Simone thought. That was exactly the point. She walked through the entrance with her head high, her shoulders back, every movement deliberate and confident. The hotel lobby was spectacular, with marble floors and crystal chandeliers. Staff members directed guests toward the ballroom on the second floor. Simone took the grand staircase, one hand on the railing, moving with the grace of someone who belonged in spaces like this. She'd been to dozens of events in hotels just like this one, but always as Nathan's shadow. Tonight she was her own person. The ballroom doors were open and music drifted out. She could hear the buzz of conversation, the clink of champagne glasses, the laughter of people having a good time. For a moment she hesitated. Once she walked through those doors, everything would change. Then she remembered why she was here. Not for Nathan. For herself. She walked into the ballroom. The space was stunning. High ceilings, elaborate floral arrangements, tables draped in white linen. A jazz band played in one corner. Waiters moved through the crowd with trays of champagne and hors d'oeuvres. Everywhere she looked, she saw designer clothes, expensive jewelry, powerful people. And they all turned to look at her. Simone felt the weight of their gazes. She saw heads turning, saw people nudging their companions and pointing discreetly. She heard her name being whispered. For the first time in years she was visible. She accepted a glass of champagne from a passing waiter and began moving through the room. She recognized many faces, board members from Pierce Technologies, investors, other tech executives and their spouses. People she'd met countless times at events just like this one. But this time they really saw her. "Simone, you look absolutely radiant," one woman said. She was the wife of a major investor, someone Simone had sat next to at a dinner 3 months ago. "Thank you, Jennifer. It's good to see you. I almost didn't recognize you. That dress is stunning. Who designed it?" They chatted for a few minutes and Simone realized something surprising. This was easy. She'd spent so many years being uncomfortable at these events, feeling like she didn't belong. But that had only been because she'd been living in Nathan's shadow. Without him hovering over her, without the pressure of being the perfect CEO's wife, she could just be herself. She moved through the crowd, stopping to talk with various people. A gallery owner she'd met years ago was thrilled to hear she was painting again. A philanthropist invited her to serve on the board of an arts education nonprofit. A tech executive's wife asked for her contact information, wanting to commission a painting. And through it all, Simone felt Nathan watching her. She didn't look for him, didn't acknowledge his presence. But she knew exactly where he was in the room at all times. She could feel the weight of his stare, could sense his confusion and growing concern. Finally, inevitably, he approached her. Simone was talking with a group of women about the community art program she planned to restart when she felt a hand on her elbow. She turned to find Nathan standing there, his expression a mixture of shock and something that might have been admiration. "Simone, could I talk to you for a moment?" She smiled politely at the women. "Excuse me, ladies." She allowed Nathan to guide her to a quieter corner of the ballroom, though she made sure they remained visible to the crowd. She didn't want Gabrielle getting any ideas about confronting her in private. "You look incredible," Nathan said, his eyes taking in every detail of her appearance. "I didn't realize you were coming tonight." "Why wouldn't I come? I'm your wife. This is a company event." "I know, but you've been so busy lately with your mother and everything." "I assumed." "You assumed wrong." Simone kept her voice pleasant, betraying none of the anger beneath the surface. Nathan's discomfort was palpable. "That dress is beautiful. Is it new?" "Yes. I bought it last week." "For tonight? Does it matter?" He ran a hand through his hair, a nervous gesture she'd seen countless times. "Simone, what's going on? You've been different lately. Distant." The irony of that statement nearly made her laugh. Nathan, who had been emotionally distant for years, was accusing her of being distant. "I've been rediscovering myself," she said simply. "Finding my own interests, my own identity. You've been so focused on work, I figured I should find things to occupy my time." "That's great," Nathan said, though he didn't sound like he thought it was great at all. "I'm glad you're pursuing your art again. I always supported that." "No, you didn't," Simone thought. "You paid lip service to it while actively discouraging me from taking it seriously." "Thank you," she said aloud. "I actually have a gallery show coming up. Helena Bennett is featuring some of my pieces." "That's wonderful. When is it?" "I'll make sure to be there." "No, you won't," Simone thought. "Because by then you'll be dealing with divorce proceedings. It's in about 6 weeks. I'll send you the details." Over Nathan's shoulder, Simone saw Gabrielle watching them. The other woman's face was tight with jealousy and concern. "Good. Let her worry. I should get back to my conversations," Simone said, preparing to walk away. "Wait." Nathan caught her arm gently. "Simone, you really do look beautiful tonight. I feel like I'm seeing you for the first time in years." And that, Simone realized, was the problem. It had taken a designer gown and professional styling for Nathan to actually look at his wife. It had taken her preparing to leave him for him to notice she existed. "Thank you, Nathan. Enjoy the rest of your evening." She pulled away from him and rejoined the group of women she'd been talking to earlier. They welcomed her back warmly, and she tried to focus on their conversation about upcoming charity events. But she was acutely aware of Nathan standing where she'd left him, staring after her with an expression she couldn't quite read. Across the room, Gabrielle approached Nathan. Simone watched as they had an intense, whispered conversation. Gabrielle looked upset, her hands moving expressively. Nathan kept shaking his head, clearly trying to calm her down. But Gabrielle wasn't having it. She said something sharp, then turned and walked away, disappearing toward the restrooms. Nathan looked lost, standing alone in the middle of the ballroom. For a brief moment, Simone almost felt sorry for him. Then she remembered all the nights she'd spent alone while he was with Gabrielle, all the times he'd dismissed her pain, All the years he'd made her feel worthless. The pity evaporated. She continued working the room, making connections, rebuilding her social network. She talked about her art, her plans for the future, her excitement about the upcoming gallery show. And people listened. They were genuinely interested in what she had to say, in who she was beyond Nathan's wife. At 9:15 she decided it was time to leave. She'd achieved what she came for. She'd been seen, had made an impact, had shown Nathan that she was more than he'd given her credit for. Now it was time to go back to her apartment and prepare for tomorrow, when everything would truly begin. She made her way toward the exit, saying goodbye to various people as she went. Nathan tried to intercept her near the door. "You're leaving already? I have an early morning tomorrow. I could give you a ride home. We should talk." "That's not necessary. I have a car waiting. And besides, you need to stay and host. This is your event." "Simone, please. Something feels off. I feel like you're pulling away from me." She looked at her husband, really looked at him. She saw the anxiety in his eyes, the dawning realization that something was wrong. But it was too late. He'd had years to notice, years to care, years to choose their marriage over his ambitions and his affair. "Good night, Nathan. I'll see you soon." She walked out of the ballroom before he could respond, down the grand staircase, through the lobby, and out to where Thomas was waiting with the car. "How was your evening, ma'am?" he asked as he opened the door. "Perfect," Simone said, and she meant it. As the car pulled away from the hotel, Simone looked back one last time. Through the windows she could see the ballroom glowing with light, full of people celebrating Nathan's success. But she was no longer part of that world. She was free. Back at her apartment, Simone carefully removed her jewelry and dress, hanging everything up with care. She washed off the makeup, took down her hair, and changed into comfortable pajamas. Then she sat on her couch with a cup of tea, looking out at the ocean. Her phone buzzed with a text from Tasha. "How did it go?" "Better than I could have hoped. Nathan saw me. Really saw me. And tomorrow he's going to understand exactly what he lost. I'm so proud of you. Get some sleep. Tomorrow's a big day." Simone tried to sleep, but adrenaline kept her awake. She kept replaying moments from the evening. The look on Nathan's face when he first saw her, the way people had responded to her, the confidence she'd felt moving through that room. She'd done it. She'd reclaimed her visibility. And tomorrow morning, when Nathan received those divorce papers, he would realize that his invisible wife had been planning her exit all along. At 7 a.m. Simone's phone rang. It was Patricia. "The process server is in position. He'll be delivering the papers to Nathan's office in 1 hour. Are you ready?" "I'm ready." "Good. Remember, Nathan will probably try to contact you immediately. Don't answer. Let him sit with it for a while. We want him off balance." "I understand. Simone, you're doing great. This is the hardest part, but you're going to get through it." After hanging up, Simone made herself breakfast, though she could barely eat. She kept checking her phone, waiting for the inevitable call from Nathan. At exactly 8 o'clock, Patricia texted. "Papers delivered. He's been served." Simone set down her coffee cup, her hands shaking. It was done. After all the planning, all the preparation, all the fear and doubt, she'd finally taken the step. She was divorcing Nathan Pierce. 10 minutes later, her phone started ringing. Nathan's name flashed on the screen. She let it go to voicemail. It rang again immediately. And again. And again. Simone turned off her phone and sat in the silence of her new apartment, tears streaming down her face. But they weren't tears of sadness. They were tears of relief. She was finally free. "I need to continue from where we left off. Let me write chapter 6, which shows the aftermath and Nathan's reaction." Nathan Pierce stared at the divorce papers spread across his desk, unable to process what he was reading. His assistant had handed them to him at 8 a.m., delivered by a professional process server who'd walked into the Pierce Technologies headquarters like it was completely routine. Which Nathan supposed it probably was for him. Just another divorce to deliver, another marriage ending. But this was Nathan's marriage. His wife. And according to these papers, Simone was suing him for divorce, citing irreconcilable differences and requesting 50% of all marital assets, including his stake in Pierce Technologies. His phone buzzed with a call from his attorney, Gregory Walters. "Nathan, I just received notice of the divorce filing. We need to meet immediately." "This has to be a mistake," Nathan said, his voice sounding strange even to his own ears. "Simone wouldn't. We were fine. We've been fine. Clearly you weren't as fine as you thought. Listen to me carefully. Do not contact Simone directly. Do not try to talk her out of this. Any communication needs to go through attorneys now. But I need to explain. I need to make her understand. Understand what, Nathan? That you've been having an affair with your marketing director for the past 18 months? Because according to these papers, she knows. She has evidence. Photographs, text messages, financial records showing you gave Gabrielle bonuses and stock options using marital assets. Nathan felt the blood drain from his face. She knows? She knows everything. And her attorney is Patricia Montgomery, which means Simone is playing for keeps. Patricia is one of the best divorce lawyers in the state, and she doesn't take cases unless she thinks she can win big. How much are we talking about? Based on California community property laws and the evidence she's compiled? Potentially $700 million. The number hit Nathan like a physical blow. $700 million? That's half my net worth. That's California law. Anything acquired during the marriage is split 50-50. Your company grew exponentially during your marriage to Simone. She's entitled to half that growth. But she didn't do anything. She was just there. Careful, Nathan. That kind of thinking is exactly what's going to cost you in court. Simone's attorney has documented her contributions to your success. Her initial investment of $50,000, her networking connections that brought you early clients, her social support during crucial business negotiations. She has emails, calendar records, witness statements. Nathan thought back to last night, to seeing Simone at the gala in that stunning green dress. She'd looked so different, so confident and self-assured. And she'd been cold to him, polite but distant. She'd been planning this. While he'd been focused on the merger, on Gabrielle, on everything he thought mattered, Simone had been building her case against him. I need to talk to her, Nathan said. I need to fix this. You can't fix it. She's made her decision. The only question now is how much this is going to cost you. After hanging up with Gregory, Nathan tried calling Simone. It went straight to voicemail. He tried again. Same result. He sent text messages that went unread. Finally, in desperation, he left his office and drove to their penthouse. Except when he got there, he realized it wasn't their penthouse anymore. It was just his. Simone's things were gone. Her clothes, her art supplies, the paintings she'd been working on. Even her toiletries had been removed from the bathroom. The only sign she'd ever lived there was the furniture they'd chosen together, and even that felt hollow now. She'd left him. Actually left him. And he'd been so oblivious that he hadn't even noticed her packing. Nathan sank onto the couch, the same couch where he'd sat with his phone while Simone tried to tell him about her mother's heart attack. The memory made him feel sick. How many other moments had he missed? How many times had Simone needed him and he hadn't been there? His phone rang. It was Gabrielle. Nathan, what's going on? I heard you got served with divorce papers at the office. Is it true? Yeah, it's true. But I thought you were going to wait until after the merger. We agreed. Simone didn't wait for my timeline. She filed first. There was a pause. So what does this mean for us? The word felt heavy. Nathan thought about Gabrielle, about the affair that had seemed so exciting and necessary. She understood him, understood his work, understood his ambitions. She wasn't clingy like Simone, wasn't always asking for attention and time. Except, Nathan realized Simone hadn't been clingy. She'd been trying to have a marriage. And he'd been too selfish to see the difference. I don't know what it means, he said honestly. I need to focus on the divorce right now. Are you going to fight it? Of course I'm going to fight it. Simone wants half of everything. Well, you can't let her have that. The company is yours. You built it. But had he? Or had he built it with Simone's support, Simone's money, Simone's connections? The distinction felt important suddenly. I have to go, Nathan said. I'll call you later. He hung up before Gabrielle could respond. The rest of the day passed in a blur. Nathan met with Gregory and a team of attorneys who explained his options, none of which looked good. They could argue that Simone's contributions were minimal, but Patricia Montgomery would counter with evidence. They could claim the company's value was tied to Nathan's personal genius, but California courts didn't care about that. They could try to negotiate a settlement, but Patricia had made it clear Simone wanted exactly what she was legally entitled to. What about the affair? Nathan asked. Will that affect the settlement? In California, infidelity doesn't impact property division, Gregory explained. It might affect public perception, might make settling easier for you to avoid bad publicity, but it won't change the numbers. So I'm just supposed to give her $700 million? Unless you want to spend years in court fighting this, yes. And even then you'll probably lose. The law is very clear. Nathan left the meeting feeling hollow. He drove aimlessly around Los Angeles, thinking about his marriage, about Simone, about everything he'd taken for granted. He thought he had time. He thought Simone would always be there, patient and understanding, waiting for him to be ready to focus on their marriage. He thought he could have the affair with Gabrielle without consequences, that Simone would never find out, or if she did, would forgive him because that's what wives did. He'd been so wrong. The next few days were torture. Nathan couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. News of the divorce leaked to the tech blogs, and suddenly his personal life was being dissected publicly. The narrative wasn't kind. Successful CEO leaves devoted wife for younger employee, wife fights back and demands what she's owed. Gabrielle became defensive. "This isn't my fault," she insisted when Nathan told her about the press coverage. "You said you were already planning to divorce her." "I was. But I wanted to do it on my terms, quietly, without all this drama." "Well, maybe if you'd been honest with Simone from the beginning, we wouldn't be in this mess." The accusation stung because it was true. Nathan had lied to everyone. To Simone about his feelings, to Gabrielle about his timeline, to himself about what he wanted. A week after being served, Nathan finally received a message from Simone. Not to him directly, but through Patricia Montgomery. "My client is willing to enter into mediation to discuss the division of assets. She requests that you come prepared with full financial disclosure and a realistic understanding of California community property law." That was it. No personal message, no opening for reconciliation. Just legal business. Nathan tried one more time to reach Simone directly. He sent an email to the personal account he thought she still used. "Simone, please just talk to me. I know I messed up. I know I hurt you. But we've been together for 7 years. That has to count for something. Don't throw away everything we built together." The response came 2 hours later, but it wasn't from Simone. It was from Patricia. "Mr. Pierce, any further attempts to contact my client directly will be documented as harassment. All communication must go through legal counsel. Your email has been forwarded to our office and added to the case file." Nathan showed the email to Gregory, who winced. "You need to stop trying to contact her. You're only making things worse." "I just want to explain." "There's nothing to explain. You cheated on your wife, she found out, and now she's divorcing you. The story is pretty straightforward." "But I didn't mean to hurt her." "Nathan, wake up. You did hurt her. Your intentions don't matter. The result is what counts. And the result is that you destroyed your marriage, and now it's going to cost you." The Patterson merger, which had been going smoothly, started hitting snags. Several board members expressed concern about Nathan's moral character following the divorce news. One major investor pulled out entirely, citing reputational risk. And through it all, Nathan kept seeing Simone in his mind. Not the quiet, forgettable wife he'd stopped noticing, but Simone as she'd looked at the gala, radiant, confident, powerful. He kept hearing her voice from that night. "I've been rediscovering myself." She'd been preparing to leave him, and he'd been too blind to see it. Gabrielle grew increasingly frustrated with his distraction. "I thought once you were free from Simone we could finally be together properly. But you're more focused on her now than you ever were during the marriage." "I'm losing half my fortune," Nathan snapped. "Excuse me for being preoccupied. This is about more than money. You're regretting the divorce. I'm regretting how it happened. I should have ended things with Simone properly before starting something with you." "Oh, so now I'm the problem?" "I didn't say that. You didn't have to." Gabrielle left his office in a fury, and Nathan couldn't even bring himself to care. He was too busy thinking about Simone, about their early days together when she'd believed in him, when she'd invested her own money in his dreams, when she'd been his biggest supporter. He'd had everything and he'd thrown it away for what? For someone who understood his work? Simone had understood his work. She just hadn't let it consume her entire identity the way he had. 2 weeks after being served, Nathan attended the first mediation session. Patricia Montgomery was everything her reputation promised. Sharp, prepared, and completely unintimidated by Nathan's wealth or status. And beside her sat Simone. Nathan's breath caught. She looked different again. Not the invisible wife, not even the stunning woman from the gala. This Simone wore a deep blue blazer and looked like she could run a Fortune 500 company herself. She met his eyes once, briefly, then focused on the paperwork in front of her. "Let's begin," Patricia said. For the next 3 hours they went through finances. Simone's attorney laid out her case methodically. The initial investment, the networking connections, the social capital Simone had provided during crucial business phases. She showed how Nathan's net worth had grown from $2 million to over $1 billion during their marriage. Ms. Bennett is entitled to half of that growth, Patricia concluded. That's $697 million based on current valuation. That's insane, Gregory argued. Mr. Pierce built that company with his own talent and hard work. With resources provided by the marriage, Patricia countered. Ms. Bennett's investment, Ms. Bennett's connections, Ms. Bennett's emotional and social support. All of which enabled Mr. Pierce to focus on growing his business. Nathan watched Simone throughout this exchange. She sat quietly, her expression neutral, occasionally making notes. She didn't look angry or hurt. She looked like someone conducting business. When had his wife become this person? Or had she always been this capable, and he just never bothered to notice? We're also prepared to present evidence of marital asset misappropriation, Patricia continued, pulling out documents. Mr. Pierce used company funds to give his paramour, Ms. Gabrielle Laurent, bonuses and stock options totaling over $200,000. This is technically theft from the marital estate. Nathan felt his face flush. Across the table, Simone's expression didn't change. The mediation ended with no resolution. Gregory and Patricia agreed to exchange more documentation and meet again in 2 weeks. As everyone gathered their things, Nathan tried to approach Simone. Can we talk? Just for a minute? Patricia stepped between them. No, Mr. Pierce. You had years to talk to my client. That time is over. Simone stood, picked up her briefcase and walked out without looking back. Nathan stood in the conference room watching her leave and finally understood. This wasn't about money. This wasn't about revenge. This was about Simone reclaiming herself, taking back everything he'd stolen from her. Her confidence, her independence, her future. And he'd lost her completely. For the first time since receiving the divorce papers, Nathan cried. Not for the money he was going to lose, but for the woman he'd failed to appreciate until it was too late. Simone Bennett Pierce was done being invisible. And Nathan Pierce was left standing in the wreckage of what his selfishness had destroyed. 3 weeks after the gala, Simone stood in the bright, open space of the Bennett Gallery in Beverly Hills, watching workers hang her paintings on pristine white walls. Helena stood beside her, tablet in hand, making notes about placement and lighting. The exhibition space is perfect, Helena said. These pieces deserve to be seen. Simone looked at her work displayed in the professional setting and felt a surge of pride. Each painting told part of her story, the invisibility, the awakening, the transformation, the freedom. Together they created a narrative of survival and strength. When did you say the opening is? Helena asked. 2 weeks from tonight. I've sent invitations to about 200 people. Did you invite Nathan? Simone smiled slightly. His invitation went to his office. Whether he comes or not is his choice. The truth was, Simone hoped Nathan wouldn't come. She'd moved past needing his validation or his presence in her life. This gallery show was about her art, her voice, her future. It wasn't about proving anything to her almost ex-husband. The mediation sessions had been brutal but effective. Patricia had systematically destroyed Nathan's arguments one by one. The evidence of Simone's contributions was overwhelming. The proof of Nathan's affair and financial misconduct sealed the case. A week ago, Nathan's attorneys had proposed a settlement. $600 million paid out over 5 years, plus the Santa Monica apartment and a severance of all ties. Simone had accepted immediately. It was less than she was legally entitled to, but Patricia had advised taking it. Dragging this through courts could take years, Patricia had explained. And Nathan's company is showing signs of financial stress from the bad publicity. Better to take the settlement now while he can still pay it. The divorce would be final in 2 months, once the settlement paperwork was processed. Nathan had tried to reach out several times, but Simone had maintained her boundary. All communication went through attorneys. She had nothing to say to him that mattered anymore. Her phone buzzed with a text from Tasha. Are you still at the gallery? I'm bringing lunch. Still here. Bring extra. I'm starving. Simone left Helena to continue supervising the hanging and walked out onto the gallery's front patio. The afternoon sun was bright and she lifted her face to it, enjoying the warmth. She thought about how different her life looked now compared to 3 months ago. She had her own apartment, her own bank account with her settlement money already starting to arrive, her own identity. She was teaching art classes at the community center again. She was painting every day. She was building the life she'd dreamed of before Nathan. And she was happy. Genuinely, deeply happy in a way she hadn't been in years. Tasha arrived with sandwiches and salads from a nearby cafe. They sat at a small table on the patio, eating and talking about the upcoming opening. Have you thought about what you'll say during your artist talk? Tasha asked. I'm working on it. Helena wants me to discuss the inspiration behind the series, the themes I'm exploring. It feels vulnerable talking about such a personal journey in front of people. But that's what makes art powerful. The vulnerability, the honesty. People need to see that it's okay to leave situations that aren't serving you, even when those situations look perfect from the outside. Simone knew Tasha was right. Her story wasn't unique. There were countless other women married to successful men, living in beautiful homes, appearing to have it all while dying inside from neglect. If her art could speak to them, could give them courage to choose themselves, then the vulnerability was worth it. That evening, Simone was back at her apartment when her phone rang. It was a number she didn't recognize. Hello? Simone, it's Gabrielle. Don't hang up. Simone's first instinct was to disconnect the call. But curiosity made her wait. What do you want, Gabrielle? I want to explain. I want you to understand that I never meant to hurt you. Nathan and I, it just happened. We connected over work and feelings developed. Feelings developed, Simone repeated flatly. That's your explanation for sleeping with my husband? I know how it sounds, but Nathan was unhappy in your marriage. He told me he'd been thinking about divorce for years. And you believed him? Gabrielle, I don't know if you're calling because you feel guilty or because you want my blessing, but either way you're wasting your time. I don't care about your relationship with Nathan. I don't care about your justifications. What you did shows exactly who you are, and I want no part of it. He's struggling, Gabrielle continued as if Simone hadn't spoken. The divorce, the settlement, the bad press. It's destroying him. The company is in trouble. He's lost several major clients. Some of the board members are calling for his resignation. And you're telling me this because you could help. You could make a statement supporting him, saying the divorce was mutual and amicable. You could attend some events with him, show a united front until things settled down. Simone laughed, a cold sound that held no humor. You want me to save Nathan's reputation after he spent years neglecting me and then cheated on me with you? Are you serious? I'm trying to protect him. Then you should have thought about that before you started an affair with a married man. Nathan's problems are his own. I'm not his wife anymore, and I'm certainly not his public relations manager. Whatever happens to his company, his career, his reputation, that's on him. You're really not going to help him? Not even a little bit. Goodbye, Gabrielle. Simone hung up, blocking the number immediately. She felt a grim satisfaction in refusing the request. For years she'd sacrificed her own needs to support Nathan. Now he was facing consequences for his choices and she owed him nothing. The next week passed quickly. Simone finalized details for the gallery opening, completed her artist talk, and spent hours at the community center with the kids in her art program. Several of them were excited about attending the opening, their parents having received special invitations. She also met with a financial advisor to discuss investing her settlement. $600 million was more money than she'd ever imagined having. With smart management, she'd never have to worry about finances again. More importantly, she could fund her gallery dreams, support emerging artists, and make a real difference in the art world. I want to establish a foundation, she told the advisor. Something that provides grants and resources to Black artists who are trying to break into the industry. And I want to open my own gallery space within the next 2 years. The advisor made notes, clearly impressed. Those are ambitious goals, but completely achievable with this kind of capital. Let's talk about structures and timelines. By the time Simone left the meeting, she had a concrete plan for her future. The Bennett Foundation for Emerging Artists would launch in 6 months. She'd already identified several young artists she wanted to support. And the gallery, her gallery, would open in 18 months in a beautiful space in downtown Los Angeles. She was building an empire of her own, one that had nothing to do with Nathan Pierce. The night before the gallery opening, Simone couldn't sleep. She kept thinking about the paintings, about the people who would see them, about exposing such a personal journey to public scrutiny. But she also felt excitement, the kind of nervous energy that came before something important. At 2 a.m., she gave up on sleep and went to her little studio space. She'd been working on one final painting, one she hadn't shown Helena yet. It depicted a woman standing at the edge of an ocean, her back to the viewer, facing the horizon. The woman wore a flowing green dress, and the sky above her was painted in shades of dawn. It was titled Forward. Simone added the final touches to the painting as the sun rose over the real ocean outside her window. When she finally set down her brush, she felt complete. The series was done. Her story, at least this chapter of it, was told. The gallery opening was scheduled for 7 p.m. Simone arrived at 5 to oversee final preparations. Helena had outdone herself. The space was elegant and welcoming, with Simone's paintings displayed to maximum effect. A catering company had set up a bar and appetizer stations. A jazz trio was setting up in the corner. At 6:30, Simone retreated to Helena's office to change. She'd chosen a stunning maroon dress that made her feel powerful without being ostentatious. Kendra had come earlier to style her hair, and Rico had done her makeup. Looking in the mirror, Simone barely recognized herself as the woman who'd stood in the penthouse foyer 3 months ago, trying to get her husband's attention. That woman was gone. The woman in the mirror was an artist, an entrepreneur, a survivor. And she was magnificent. "Ready?" Helena asked, poking her head into the office. "Ready." They walked back to the main gallery space just as the first guests began arriving. Within 30 minutes, the space was filled with people. Art collectors, other artists, friends and family, community members, even some tech industry people who'd known Nathan but came to support Simone. Simone worked the room with confidence, discussing her art, accepting compliments, making connections. She felt alive in a way she hadn't in years. This was her world and she belonged in it completely. At 7:30, Helena called for everyone's attention. "If I could have everyone gather around, our featured artist Simone Bennett would like to say a few words about her work." Simone moved to the center of the gallery, suddenly aware of dozens of eyes on her. She took a breath and began. "Thank you all for being here tonight. These paintings represent a journey of transformation, of rediscovering who I am after losing myself for a while. The series explores themes of invisibility, awakening, and ultimately freedom. Each piece tells part of a story about a woman who forgot her worth and then remembered it again." She gestured to the first painting, the one of the woman breaking free from chains. "This is about recognizing when something in your life is holding you back, even if that something looks beautiful from the outside. Sometimes the most gorgeous cages are still cages." She moved to the next painting, the phoenix rising from ashes. "This is about rebirth, about understanding that endings are also beginnings. When one version of your life burns away, it creates space for something new to emerge." She continued through the series, explaining each piece, hearing her own voice grow stronger with each painting. The audience was completely silent, absorbed in her words. Finally, she reached forward, the painting she'd completed that morning. "And this is about the future. About choosing to move toward new horizons rather than staying frozen in the past. It's about hope and possibility and the courage it takes to start over." When she finished, the audience erupted in applause. Several people had tears in their eyes. Simone felt her own eyes stinging but blinked the tears back. As the applause faded and people resumed mingling, a well-dressed older man approached Simone. "Ms. Bennett, I'm Robert Sterling, curator at the Modern Art Museum. I'd love to discuss the possibility of acquiring several of these pieces for our permanent collection." "Wait, I use Sterling. Let me change that." As the applause faded and people resumed mingling, a well-dressed older man approached Simone. "Ms. Bennett, I'm Robert Hammond, curator at the Modern Art Museum. I'd love to discuss the possibility of acquiring several of these pieces for our permanent collection." Simone's heart raced. The Modern Art Museum was one of the most prestigious institutions in Los Angeles. "I'd be honored to discuss that with you." They exchanged contact information and Robert promised to call her office the next week. After he walked away, Helena grabbed Simone's arm, beaming. "Do you know what this means? If the Modern Art Museum acquires your work, you'll be established as a serious artist. Galleries will be fighting to represent you. Collectors will be begging for your pieces." "It feels surreal," Simone admitted. "It feels like justice," Helena corrected. "This is what should have happened years ago before you got sidetracked. But you're here now and you're brilliant, and the art world is finally going to recognize that." The evening continued with more conversations, more connections, more opportunities emerging. Several pieces sold within the first hour, their red sold dots appearing beside the titles. Simone felt dizzy with success. At 9 o'clock, she stepped outside for a moment of air. The patio was quiet, offering a reprieve from the crowded gallery. She stood there, breathing in the cool evening breeze, feeling grateful and proud and free. "Simone." She turned to find Nathan standing at the edge of the patio. He'd come after all. He looked terrible, tired and drawn, his designer suit hanging slightly loose on his frame. He'd lost weight. "What are you doing here, Nathan?" "I got the invitation. I wanted to see your work, to support you." "I don't need your support. I don't want your support." "I know. He ran a hand through his hair. I've been a fool. Seeing your art, hearing you talk about your journey, it made me realize how badly I failed you. You were always this talented, this brilliant, and I was too selfish to see it. Yes, you were. But that's not my problem anymore. I know we can't go back. I know I destroyed what we had. I just wanted you to know that I'm sorry. Truly deeply sorry. You deserved so much better than what I gave you. Simone looked at her ex-husband and felt nothing. No anger, no sadness, not even satisfaction at his obvious remorse. Just a vague indifference, like he was a stranger she'd once known. I appreciate the apology, Nathan. But it doesn't change anything. You made your choices and I've made mine. I hope you figure things out, I really do. But I'm not part of your life anymore. I understand. Nathan looked like he wanted to say more but couldn't find the words. Finally he just nodded. Your work is extraordinary. I'm proud of you even if I have no right to be. He walked away, disappearing into the night. Simone watched him go, feeling a sense of closure she hadn't expected. This was truly the end of their story. She went back inside to her celebration, to her success, to her future. The gallery was still full of people, still buzzing with energy. Tasha found her immediately. Was that Nathan I saw leaving? Yes. He came to apologize. And nothing. He apologized, I accepted, and he left. It's over, Tasha. Really, truly over. How do you feel? Simone smiled, looking around at the gallery, at her paintings on the walls, at the life she'd built from the ashes of her marriage. I feel free. The rest of the evening passed in a blur of joy. By the time the last guest left at midnight, 11 of the 15 paintings had sold. The Modern Art Museum had committed to acquiring 2 pieces. Helena had booked Simone for 3 more shows over the next year. As Simone and Helena cleaned up the gallery, Helena raised a glass of champagne. To Simone Bennett, rising star of the art world. Simone clinked her glass against Helena's. To new beginnings. She meant it with her whole heart. This was her new beginning, and it was everything she'd ever dreamed of. Nathan Pierce had ignored his wife until she shocked everyone. And now, Simone Bennett was showing the world exactly what he'd been too blind to see. The morning after the gallery opening, Simone woke to her phone ringing insistently. She groaned, reaching for it without opening her eyes. It was Patricia. Have you seen the news? Patricia asked without preamble. I just woke up. What news? Check Art Daily online. Now. Simone pulled up the website on her phone and her breath caught. The headline read, Emerging artist Simone Bennett's powerful exhibition explores life after marriage to tech billionaire Nathan Pierce. The article was extensive, featuring photos from the gallery opening, excerpts from her artist talk, and a detailed analysis of her work. The writer had connected the themes in her paintings to her very public divorce, painting a picture of a woman who'd been overshadowed by her husband's success finally stepping into her own light. This is, wow. It gets better, Patricia said. The Los Angeles Times ran a piece too. And Vanity Fair wants to do a profile on you. The narrative has officially shifted, Simone. You're no longer Nathan Pierce's ex-wife. You're Simone Bennett, acclaimed artist. After hanging up with Patricia, Simone scrolled through social media. The response to the exhibition was overwhelming. Art critics were praising her work. People were sharing photos of the paintings, discussing the themes, relating their own stories of transformation. Several women had posted about being inspired by her courage to leave a marriage that wasn't serving her. Tasha called next. You're viral. Like actually viral. There's a whole thread on Twitter about your exhibition, and people are making connections between your art and women's empowerment. I didn't mean for it to become a statement about feminism or anything. I was just telling my story. Your story is political, babe. A woman leaving a billionaire husband and thriving on her own? That's revolutionary to a lot of people. Simone spent the rest of the morning fielding calls and messages. Interview requests poured in. More galleries wanted to show her work. The Modern Art Museum called to say they wanted to host a solo retrospective in a year. Her mother called, crying happy tears. Baby, I'm so proud of you. You took something painful and turned it into something beautiful. Thanks, Mama. I couldn't have done it without you believing in me. You always had it in you. You just needed to remember. By the afternoon, Simone needed to escape the attention. She drove to the beach and walked along the shore, letting the ocean breeze clear her head. Her life had changed so dramatically in 3 months. She'd gone from invisible wife to independent artist, from uncertain and lost to confident and purposeful. Her phone rang again. This time it was a number she didn't recognize, but something made her answer. Miss Bennett? This is Michelle Rodriguez from The Times. I'm writing a follow-up piece about your exhibition, and I wanted to ask you about some financial documents that have recently surfaced. Simone's stomach dropped. What documents? Someone leaked details about your divorce settlement. $600 million paid out over 5 years. There's also information about Nathan Pierce using company funds to benefit his mistress. I wanted to get your comment before we publish. I have no comment. My divorce settlement is a private matter. But you understand how this looks, right? You left a man who was cheating on you and got one of the largest divorce settlements in California history. People are calling you a gold digger. Simone felt anger flare. Of course they were. A woman couldn't win in situations like this. Either she stayed with a cheating husband and was weak, or she left and demanded what she was owed and was a gold digger. Print whatever you want, Simone said coldly. But I know the truth. I invested in Nathan's company when it was nothing. I supported his career for years while putting my own dreams aside. I earned every penny of that settlement, and I'm not ashamed of taking what was legally mine. She hung up before the reporter could ask another question, immediately calling Patricia. Someone leaked the settlement details. The media is going to spin this as me being a gold digger. Let them, Patricia said calmly. We have documentation of everything. Your investment, your contributions, the affair, Nathan's financial misconduct. If they want to make you look bad, we'll release that documentation and make Nathan look worse. I don't want this to turn into a media war. Then we control the narrative. Let me handle this. I'll draft a statement that presents the facts clearly. You stay focused on your art and your life. That's the best response to any criticism. Patricia's statement went out that afternoon. Ms. Simone Bennett's divorce settlement reflects California's community property laws and her documented financial contributions to Pierce Technologies. Ms. Bennett invested $50,000 of her personal funds in the company's early stages and provided crucial business connections that helped secure major contracts. The settlement represents her legal share of the marital assets accumulated during her 5-year marriage to Nathan Pierce. Ms. Bennett is focused on her successful art career and asks for privacy as she moves forward with her life. The statement was picked up by major outlets. Within hours, the narrative started shifting again. Financial experts analyzed the settlement and confirmed that it was actually fair given California law. Other women who'd gone through similar divorces spoke out in support of Simone. Even some of Nathan's former business associates came forward to confirm that Simone had indeed made valuable contributions to Pierce Technologies' early success. By evening, the backlash against Simone had largely faded, replaced by renewed interest in her art and her story. But the damage to Nathan's reputation continued to grow. The leaked documents about his affair and the money he'd given Gabrielle painted him as reckless and unethical. Pierce Technologies' stock price dropped again. Board members publicly questioned his leadership. Simone tried not to follow the news about Nathan, but it was everywhere. His company was in genuine trouble now. The Patterson merger had fallen through entirely. Several key employees had resigned. There was talk of a hostile takeover. She didn't feel satisfaction at his downfall. She felt nothing which was somehow more profound. The man who had once been the center of her world was now just someone she used to know. A week after the settlement leak, Gabrielle called again. This time, Simone let it go to voicemail. She listened to the message later. Simone, this is Gabrielle. I know you don't want to hear from me, but I need to tell you something. Nathan and I aren't together anymore. He blamed me for everything. Said I ruined his life, his marriage, his company. He ended things last week. I just thought you should know that he's not doing well. He's depressed, drinking too much. I'm worried about him. Simone deleted the message without responding. Nathan's mental health wasn't her responsibility. She'd spent years trying to fix him, trying to make him happy, trying to be enough. That chapter of her life was closed. She spent the next few weeks focused on her own growth. She hired a business manager to help launch the Bennett Foundation. She toured potential gallery spaces for her own venture. She continued teaching at the community center, where the kids were creating their own exhibition based on themes of resilience and transformation. She also started dating, casually. Nothing serious, just dinner with interesting men who asked questions about her life and actually listened to the answers. It was strange at first, being treated like her thoughts and feelings mattered. But gradually it started to feel normal. One evening, she went on a date with a man named Eric, a professor of African American Studies at UCLA. He was handsome, thoughtful, and genuinely fascinated by her art. Over dinner, they talked about everything from social justice movements to their favorite books to the challenges of being black professionals in predominantly white industries. Can I ask you something personal? Eric said as they shared dessert. Sure. The divorce from Nathan Pierce? Was it as hard as the media made it look? Simone considered the question. It was hard, but not for the reasons people think. The hard part wasn't leaving him. The hard part was admitting I'd lost myself in the marriage and finding my way back. It seems like you found yourself pretty spectacularly. I'm still finding myself. Every day, I discover something new about who I am when I'm not trying to be what someone else needs. Eric smiled. I'd like to keep getting to know that person if you're interested. I'm interested. It wasn't love, not yet. But it was possibility, which felt important after years of stagnation. 2 months after the gallery opening, Simone attended the finalization hearing for her divorce. She wore a royal blue blazer and walked into the courthouse with Patricia beside her. Nathan was already there with Gregory, looking gaunt and tired. The hearing was brief. The judge reviewed the settlement agreement, confirmed that both parties agreed to the terms, and officially dissolved the marriage. You are now legally divorced, the judge announced. Good luck to both of you. That was it. 5 years of marriage ended with a few signatures and legal declarations. Outside the courthouse, Nathan tried to approach Simone one final time. Can we talk? Just for a minute? Patricia stepped forward, but Simone put a hand on her lawyer's arm. It's okay. I'll hear him out. They walked a short distance away from their respective attorneys. Nathan looked at her with desperate eyes. I want you to know that I never stopped loving you. Simone shook her head. Nathan, you didn't love me. You loved the idea of me, the convenience of me, the way I made your life easier. But you didn't love me as a person with my own needs and dreams. I know I failed you. I know I can't fix that. But Simone, I'm losing everything. The company, my reputation, my sense of who I am. You're the only good thing I ever had, and I threw you away. I'm not a thing you had. I'm a person you neglected. And what you're experiencing now is just consequences. You made choices, Nathan. You chose work over our marriage. You chose to have an affair. You chose to take me for granted. This is what happens when those choices catch up with you. Can't you at least tell me you forgive me? Simone thought about it. Did she forgive him? In a way, yes. She wasn't carrying anger or resentment anymore. But forgiveness didn't mean reconciliation or absolution. I forgive you for being human and making mistakes. But I don't forgive you for the years of emotional neglect. I don't forgive you for making me feel invisible in my own marriage. And I don't forgive you for the affair. Some things are too big to forgive, Nathan. They can only be left behind. So this is really it? We're really over? We've been over for a long time. Today just makes it official. Simone walked away from Nathan for the last time, feeling lighter with each step. Patricia fell into pace beside her. How do you feel? Patricia asked. Free. Completely and totally free. They celebrated that night at a restaurant Simone loved, one Nathan had always dismissed as too casual. Patricia, Tasha, Helena, and Simone's mother all toasted to new beginnings and hard-won victories. To Simone, Tasha said, raising her glass, who showed us all what it means to choose yourself. To Simone, the others echoed. As Simone looked around the table at these women who had supported her, who had believed in her even when she'd stopped believing in herself, she felt overwhelming gratitude. This was her chosen family, her real support system. Her phone buzzed with an email. It was from the Vanity Fair writer, confirming their interview for the following week. The subject line read, The Rise of Simone Bennett. Not the divorce of Nathan Pierce. Not the scandal of a billionaire's affair. The rise of Simone Bennett. That felt like the truest headline of all. 3 months post-divorce, Simone sat in her new gallery space in downtown Los Angeles, watching contractors install track lighting. The space was larger than she'd originally planned, 3,000 square feet of exposed brick and high ceilings. It would be called the Bennett Gallery and it would open in 4 months. Her phone rang. It was Helena. Turn on the news. Channel 7. Simone pulled up the live stream on her laptop. The news anchor was discussing Pierce Technologies. In a stunning development, Nathan Pierce has been voted out as CEO by the company's board of directors. The decision comes after months of declining stock prices, failed merger attempts, and persistent questions about Pierce's personal conduct. The company will be led by interim CEO Rachel Thompson while a permanent replacement is sought. Simone watched as footage played of Nathan leaving the Pierce Technologies headquarters, reporters shouting questions at him. He looked distraught, pushing through the crowd without answering. Nathan Pierce, do you have any comment on being removed from the company you founded? Mr. Pierce, how does it feel to lose everything? Is it true you're filing for bankruptcy? Simone closed the laptop, unable to watch anymore. She'd known Nathan's company was struggling, but she hadn't realized things had gotten this bad. Part of her, the part that had loved him once, felt sad for him. But the larger part, the part that had rebuilt herself from the ashes of their marriage, recognized that this was his journey to walk alone. Tasha called immediately. "Did you see?" "I saw." "How are you feeling?" "Honestly? I don't know. It's surreal watching someone who had everything lose it all. He brought it on himself." "I know. But it's still strange to witness." That evening, Gabrielle showed up at Simone's apartment building. The doorman called up to ask if Simone wanted to see her. Tell her no. 10 minutes later her phone rang. Gabrielle's number. "Please Simone. I just need 5 minutes. It's about Nathan." Against her better judgment, Simone agreed to meet her in the lobby. Gabrielle looked terrible, her usually perfect appearance disheveled. Dark circles under her eyes, hair pulled back in a messy ponytail. "Thank you for seeing me," Gabrielle said. "You have 5 minutes. Nathan tried to hurt himself last night. He took a bunch of pills. His assistant found him and called 911. He's in the hospital now, stable, but he's not doing well mentally." Simone felt her stomach drop. Suicide attempt. Nathan had tried to kill himself. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because you're the only person he ever really cared about. I thought I could help him through this, but I can't. He doesn't want me. He wants you. Well, he can't have me. I'm not responsible for Nathan's mental health, Gabrielle. I'm not responsible for saving him. But don't you care at all? Don't you feel any compassion for what he's going through?" "Of course I care. Nathan is a human being in pain, and I don't wish that on anyone. But caring doesn't mean I'm obligated to fix him. I spent years trying to fix Nathan, trying to make him happy, trying to be enough. It didn't work then and it won't work now. He's talking about you constantly. Saying you were the best thing in his life, that losing you destroyed him." "Nathan destroyed himself," Simone said firmly. "I didn't make him have an affair. I didn't make him neglect our marriage. I didn't make him give you company resources inappropriately. Those were his choices. The consequences are his to bear. So you're just going to let him suffer?" "I'm going to let him face his consequences and hopefully learn from them. That's not the same as letting him suffer. It's called holding someone accountable." Gabrielle's face crumpled. "I don't know what to do. I feel so guilty." "Then deal with your guilt. Go to therapy. Make amends where you can. But don't come to me looking for absolution or help. I'm not part of this equation anymore." Simone walked back to the elevators, leaving Gabrielle standing in the lobby. As she rode up to her apartment, she felt shaky. The news about Nathan's suicide attempt had rattled her more than she wanted to admit. Once inside, she called her therapist, Dr. Karen Mitchell, who she'd been seeing since the divorce proceedings began. "I heard about my ex-husband's suicide attempt," Simone said when Dr. Mitchell answered. "And I'm feeling guilty for not feeling worse about it." "Tell me more about that." "Part of me is sad that Nathan is suffering. But the larger part of me knows that his suffering isn't my responsibility." "Is that cold? Am I a terrible person for not rushing to his side?" "Simone, you spent years making Nathan's well-being your responsibility. You sacrificed your own needs, your own dreams, your own identity to support him. The fact that you're not doing that anymore doesn't make you cold. It makes you healthy. But what if something happens to him? What if he tries again and succeeds? That would be tragic. But it still wouldn't be your fault or your responsibility. Nathan is an adult who made choices that led to consequences. Those consequences are difficult and he's struggling to cope with them. But you can't save him from himself, and trying to would only hurt you both." After the call with Dr. Mitchell, Simone made herself dinner and sat on her couch thinking about Nathan. She remembered the early days of their relationship, when he'd been attentive and loving. She remembered believing they would build a life together as true partners. What had gone wrong? Was it Nathan's success that changed him? Or had he always been self-centered and she'd just been too in love to see it clearly? Maybe it didn't matter anymore. The past was the past. What mattered now was moving forward. Her phone buzzed with a text from Eric. "Dinner tomorrow night? There's a new Ethiopian restaurant I want to try." "Sounds perfect," she replied. That was her present and future. New experiences, new relationships, new possibilities. She wasn't going to let Nathan's crisis pull her backward. The next morning, Simone read that Nathan had been released from the hospital and placed on a 72-hour psychiatric hold. Several news outlets ran stories about his fall from grace, painting him as a cautionary tale about hubris and poor choices. Simone's phone rang constantly. Reporters wanting her comment on Nathan's condition. Friends asking if she was okay. Even her mother called, concerned. Baby, I know you're moving on with your life, but maybe you should check on him. Just to make sure he's getting the help he needs. Mama, Nathan has assistants, attorneys, probably a whole team of mental health professionals working with him. He doesn't need me. I know, but. No buts. I love you, Mama, but I'm not going backward. I've worked too hard to rebuild my life. Nathan's struggles are his own. Her mother sighed but accepted it. You're right. I'm proud of you for maintaining your boundaries. Simone spent the day at the Bennett Gallery focusing on her business. The contractor showed her the updated plans for the space. They were expanding the artist studios in the back, creating a full workshop area where emerging artists could work on their pieces. This is going to be incredible, the contractor said. A gallery that also serves as a creative workspace? That's revolutionary. That's the goal. I want this place to be more than just a showroom. I want it to be a community. As she stood in her gallery, surrounded by the physical manifestation of her dreams, Simone felt a profound sense of rightness. This was where she was meant to be. Not in Nathan's shadow, not as someone's neglected wife, but here, building something that mattered. That evening, she attended a fundraiser for the community center where she taught. One of her students, a 15-year-old girl named Jasmine, no wait, I can't use Jasmine. Let me change that. That evening, she attended a fundraiser for the community center where she taught. One of her students, a 15-year-old girl named Destiny, had a piece featured in the event program. The painting showed a girl standing in front of a mirror, seeing a superhero reflection. Your class changed my life, Ms. Bennett, Destiny said shyly when Simone complimented the work. You taught me that art isn't just something pretty to look at. It's a way to tell our truth. You're a brilliant artist, Destiny. Don't ever let anyone tell you otherwise. Miss Bennett? Can I ask you something? Sure. People say you were married to that billionaire guy who's all over the news. Is that true? It is. Why'd you leave him? Wasn't he, like, super rich? Simone smiled at the directness of teenage curiosity. I left because money doesn't make you happy. Being with someone who sees you, who respects you, who supports your dreams. That's what makes you happy. I'd rather be broke and valued than rich and invisible. Destiny nodded thoughtfully. That makes sense. My mom stayed with my dad even though he treated her bad, because she was scared of being alone. But you weren't scared. Oh, I was terrified. But I did it anyway. That's what courage is, Destiny. Being scared and doing the hard thing regardless. The conversation stayed with Simone as she drove home. She was teaching these kids more than art. She was showing them, through her own example, that it was possible to choose yourself even when it was difficult. A week after Nathan's suicide attempt, Patricia called with an update. Nathan's attorneys have filed paperwork requesting a modification of the settlement. They're claiming he can't afford the payments now that he's been removed from the company. Can he really not afford it? It's complicated. He's still wealthy, just not billionaire wealthy anymore. His attorneys are arguing that the settlement should be reduced proportionally to his decreased income. What do you think? I think they're grasping at straws. We have a signed agreement. But I wanted to give you a heads up that this might drag on a bit longer. I just want it to be over, Patricia. I know. And it will be. We'll fight this modification request and we'll win. Nathan made a deal. He doesn't get to renegotiate just because his life didn't turn out the way he expected. Simone hung up, frustrated. When would this be truly finished? When would she stop having to deal with Nathan's legal team, Nathan's problems, Nathan's anything? Eric took her to dinner that night, sensing she needed the distraction. Over delicious Ethiopian food, they talked about his research on historically black colleges and universities. He was passionate about his work, and Simone found herself genuinely engaged in the conversation. Can I ask you something? Eric said as they finished their meal. Of course. Your ex-husband's situation. Does it make you want to go back? To try to help him? No, Simone said without hesitation. Is that terrible? Not at all. It's healthy. You recognize that his problems aren't yours to solve. I keep having people suggest I should at least reach out, offer support or forgiveness or something. But I don't want to. Does that make me heartless? It makes you someone with boundaries. Simone, from what you've told me about your marriage, you spent years being Nathan's emotional support system while getting nothing in return. You don't owe him anything now, especially not when you're finally thriving on your own. I like you, Simone said impulsively. Eric smiled. I like you too. And I like that you're strong enough to choose yourself. They'd been dating for 2 months now, and while Simone wasn't ready to call it a serious relationship, she appreciated having someone in her life who saw her clearly and valued what he saw. The next morning, Simone woke to news that Nathan's modification request had been denied. The court upheld the original settlement, ruling that Nathan's decreased income was a result of his own poor business decisions and did not constitute grounds for modification. Patricia sent her the court documents with a note. It's officially over. Nathan has no more legal recourse. The settlement stands as agreed. Simone read the documents twice, letting the reality sink in. It was over. Truly, completely over. She called her mother first. It's done, Mama. The divorce is final, the settlement is final, everything is final. How do you feel? Relieved. Grateful. Ready to move forward completely. I'm so proud of you, baby girl. You took a terrible situation and turned it into a triumph. Next she called Tasha. I'm officially, completely, legally done with Nathan Pierce. Thank God. Let's celebrate. Girls' night tonight? Absolutely. They went to a wine bar in Santa Monica. Simone, Tasha, Helena, and a few other friends she'd reconnected with over the past months. They laughed, told stories, toasted to new beginnings. Simone felt surrounded by love and support in a way she'd never experienced in her marriage. To Simone, Helena said, raising her glass, who proved that the best revenge is living well. This isn't revenge, Simone corrected gently. This is just my life. My actual, authentic life. And it was. For the first time in years, Simone was living on her own terms, pursuing her own dreams, building her own legacy. Nathan was a closed chapter, a cautionary tale, a lesson learned. She was Simone Bennett, artist and entrepreneur. And she was exactly where she was meant to be. 6 months after the divorce was finalized, Simone stood in the Bennett Gallery on opening night, watching people stream through the doors. The space was exactly as she'd envisioned, bright and welcoming with artwork from 12 emerging Black artists displayed on the walls. In the back, the artist studios were fully equipped, already booked for the next 6 months. This is incredible, Eric said, standing beside her. They'd been dating exclusively for 4 months now, and he'd become a genuine partner in supporting her dreams. You did this, Simone. All of this. She looked around the gallery, feeling a swell of pride and accomplishment. We did this, she corrected, gesturing to Helena, her mother, Tasha, and the small team she'd hired to help run the place. Everyone here helped make it happen. The Bennett Foundation had awarded its first grants the previous month. $50,000 each to 10 artists who were creating work that explored themes of identity, resilience, and transformation. Simone had personally mentored each recipient, helping them navigate the art world and build sustainable careers. The gallery opening was packed. Art collectors, other gallery owners, community members, students from her art classes, even some tech industry people who'd supported her work. The energy was electric, people moving from piece to piece, discussing the art, making connections. Helena appeared at Simone's elbow. We've already sold 6 pieces. And the Times art critic is here. She wants to interview you for a feature. Tell her I'll be available in 30 minutes. Simone continued working the room, greeting guests, introducing artists to potential buyers and mentors. She felt completely in her element, confident and purposeful. At 8 o'clock, she gave a short speech about the gallery's mission: to provide space and support for artists who had traditionally been excluded from mainstream art institutions. She talked about the studios, the mentorship programs, the fellowship opportunities. She ended with a quote that had become her personal mantra: art isn't just what we create. It's who we become in the creation. The crowd applauded, and Simone felt tears prick her eyes. This was everything she'd dreamed of, everything she'd set aside during her marriage to Nathan. Having it now, having built it herself, meant more than words could express. Her mother found her after the speech. Your father would be so proud. He always knew you were destined for great things. I wish he could see this. He can, baby. He's watching over you, smiling at everything you've accomplished. They hugged tightly, and Simone felt a deep sense of peace. She'd survived the worst period of her life and come out stronger. She'd rebuilt herself from nothing and created something meaningful. As the evening progressed, Simone noticed someone standing near the entrance, watching but not entering. She recognized him immediately despite the distance. Nathan. He looked different. Thinner, older, humbler. Gone was the arrogant confidence that used to define him. He stood there in jeans and a simple button-down shirt, nothing like the designer suits he used to favor. Their eyes met across the gallery. Nathan raised a hand in a small wave, then turned and left without trying to come inside. Eric noticed. Was that your ex? Yes. Do you want to go after him? Simone thought about it for exactly 3 seconds. No. Let him go. That chapter is closed. You're sure? Completely sure. She meant it too. Seeing Nathan didn't stir up any old feelings or regrets. He was simply someone she used to know, someone who'd been part of her journey but wasn't part of her destination. The gallery opening was a massive success. By the end of the night, every piece had sold or been reserved. The Times critic wrote a glowing review. And Simone received invitations to speak at 3 different art institutions about her journey and the importance of supporting emerging artists. 2 weeks later, Eric asked her to move in with him. They were having brunch at her favorite cafe, watching the ocean through the windows. I know we've only been together for 6 months, he said. And I know you probably need time after your divorce. But Simone, I love you. I love who you are, what you've built, how you move through the world. And I'd like to build a life together if you're interested. Simone's first instinct was to say no. She'd just gotten her independence back. She was finally comfortable being alone, living on her own terms. Did she really want to give that up? But then she looked at Eric, really looked at him. This wasn't Nathan. Eric didn't ask her to shrink or dim her light. He celebrated her success. He supported her dreams. He showed up for her consistently, not just when it was convenient. Can I think about it? She asked. Of course. Take all the time you need. That night, Simone called her mother. Eric asked me to move in with him. And what did you say? That I needed time to think. Mama, I'm scared. What if I lose myself again? What if moving in together changes everything? Baby, living with someone doesn't make you lose yourself. You lost yourself with Nathan because he demanded it, because he made you smaller to make himself feel bigger. Eric isn't like that. How do I know for sure? You don't. That's the risk of love. But Simone, you're not the same woman you were when you married Nathan. You're stronger now. You know your worth. If Eric tries to dim your light, you'll see it and walk away. Trust yourself. Simone thought about her mother's words for several days. She made a list of what she needed in a relationship. Mutual respect, individual space, support for her career, emotional availability, honest communication. Then she shared the list with Eric. Can you commit to these things? She asked. Yes, he said without hesitation. Simone, I'm not interested in changing you. I fell in love with exactly who you are. The driven artist, the passionate advocate, the woman who rebuilt her life from scratch. Why would I want to change any of that? Because Nathan did. He said he loved me, but then he tried to make me into someone more convenient for his lifestyle. I'm not Nathan. And you're not the same woman who married him. You're stronger now, more sure of yourself. If I ever make you feel like you need to be smaller, tell me. I promise to listen and adjust. Looking into Eric's eyes, Simone saw genuine sincerity. This man wasn't offering her a cage, even a beautiful one. He was offering partnership. Okay, she said. Let's do it. They found an apartment together, a beautiful place in Culver City with space for both of them to work. Eric had his office for his research and writing. Simone had a studio for her painting. They cooked together, supported each other's careers, and built a life based on mutual respect and genuine partnership. It was everything her marriage to Nathan hadn't been. 1 year after the divorce, Simone received an unexpected letter. It was from Nathan, forwarded through Patricia's office. She almost threw it away without reading it, but curiosity got the better of her. She opened it in her studio, where she'd been working on a new series of paintings. The letter was handwritten. Dear Simone, I know you have no reason to read this or respond to it. I know I lost that privilege a long time ago. But I wanted to tell you that I'm sorry. Truly, deeply sorry for everything I put you through. I've spent the past year in therapy working through my issues. My therapist helped me understand that I was so focused on external success that I neglected the one thing that actually mattered. Our relationship. I took you for granted in every possible way. I want you to know that I'm not writing this because I want you back. I understand that ship has sailed, and I accept full responsibility for sinking it. I'm writing because you deserve to hear a real apology, one that doesn't ask for anything in return. You were the best thing in my life and I threw you away for ambition and ego. Watching you thrive over this past year, seeing your gallery succeed, reading about your foundation, it's made me realize what I lost. But more than that, it's made me realize who you always were. You were never just my wife. You were always Simone Bennett, talented artist and brilliant businesswoman. I was just too selfish to see it. I'm glad you're happy. I'm glad you found someone who treats you the way you deserve to be treated. And I'm glad you built the life you always dreamed of. Thank you for the years we had together, even though I didn't appreciate them at the time. Thank you for investing in me when I had nothing. Thank you for trying to save our marriage even when I'd already checked out. I hope someday you can forgive me, though I know I don't deserve it. And I hope your life continues to be everything you want it to be. With genuine regret and respect, Nathan. Simone read the letter twice, then set it down on her work table. She felt nothing. No anger, no satisfaction, not even relief. Just a vague acknowledgement that Nathan had grown enough to recognize his mistakes. She didn't respond to the letter. There was nothing to say. Nathan's apology was for his own healing, not for her. And that was fine. He was entitled to his process. But Simone didn't need his apology to move forward. She'd already moved forward, leaving Nathan far behind in her journey. That evening, she and Eric hosted a dinner party at their apartment. Tasha, Helena, her mother, several artists from the gallery, and some of Eric's colleagues from UCLA. The apartment was filled with laughter and good food and genuine connection. Looking around the table at these people who mattered to her, people who saw her and valued her, Simone felt overwhelmingly grateful. I want to make a toast, she said, standing up. To all of you. Thank you for supporting me through the hardest year of my life. Thank you for believing in me when I'd stopped believing in myself. Thank you for celebrating my success and holding me through my struggles. You're my family and I love you all. To family, everyone chorused, raising their glasses. After everyone left, Simone and Eric cleaned up together, moving around the kitchen in comfortable sync. You're happy, Eric observed. Like really, truly happy. I am. For the first time in years, I'm exactly where I'm meant to be. With me. With myself, Simone corrected gently. And yes, with you too. But the happiness comes from me, from knowing who I am and living authentically. You enhance that, but you don't create it. Good answer. I'd hate to think I was responsible for your happiness. That's a lot of pressure. They laughed, and Simone realized this was what partnership should feel like. Easy, comfortable, mutually supportive. Not one person carrying all the weight while the other person pursued their dreams. The next day, Simone went to the gallery for a meeting with a major donor who wanted to fund a new wing dedicated to sculpture and installation art. The expansion would double the gallery's size and allow them to support twice as many artists. As she walked through her gallery, looking at the art on the walls, thinking about all the dreams she was making real, Simone felt a profound sense of rightness. She'd survived being invisible. She'd survived divorce and public scrutiny and self-doubt. She'd rebuilt herself stronger and more authentic than before. Nathan Pierce had ignored his wife until she shocked everyone at that luxury party. But the real shock wasn't that Simone looked beautiful in an emerald dress. The real shock was that she'd been powerful all along and she'd finally remembered it. She was Simone Bennett, artist and entrepreneur. She was a woman who'd chosen herself when it would have been easier to stay small. She was proof that endings could be beginnings, that loss could become gain, that invisibility could transform into undeniable presence. And she was happy. Not because of anyone else, but because of who she'd become in her journey. Standing in her gallery, surrounded by beauty and possibility, Simone smiled. This was her life now. This was her story. And it was exactly the happy ending she deserved.